All right, we got a stalled vehicle, 40 eastbound, right before Briley Parkway. It is blocking the right lane and the right shoulder, and it's backing everything all the way back to downtown. And then if you are going eastbound on 440 to get to 40, that's backed up almost all the way to Nolensville Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Here we are. Here we go. It is 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing well. This is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Conveniently enough, my name is Matt Murphy, and we've got 4 hours together. At least I hope you spend the entire time with us as we try to dissect what's going on in our world, in our state, in our community, and maybe even on your street. Thank you for being with us. Episode 717 getting underway and in progress. It is also Locks for Chump Day 300. I've been growing out my hair for 300 full days now, and we have him as president-elect, which dissolved my obligation. It dissolved my duty to continue to grow the hair, but I was so elated by the Trump victory after Election Day, I declared that I would keep the hair until at least Inauguration Day, and I think I'm ready to do something on Inauguration Day. There's Chris Webber behind the glass. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
How's it going?
All right.
Good.
Yeah,
glad to hear it. You having a good day?
So far, so good.
Having a great day.
Yeah?
I am. I'm having a great day. Ken Weaver?
Hi, boys, yeah.
Ken Weaver is having a day.
Yeah, I'm having a day.
Mm-hmm. How's your day been, Ken?
Oh, my day stinks.
By the way, I worked on something. Before we tell everyone why your day stinks, Ken.
Yeah.
I worked on something during my week off.
What was that?
I did some high-level negotiations because regularly during my noon to 3 visits with the listening audience, you and I were accused of talking too much football. We were. And so I've negotiated this. Chris, I don't think I've told you this.
I don't think you have either.
I did some high-level negotiations, and I got us 3 minutes a show.
All right.
We are we don't have to use it, but but Chris, you're the timekeeper.
Okay.
We're officially allowed 3 minutes of football talk per show.
Now, does this count as football talk?
It does.
All right, so the clock's ticking.
I mean, the clock the clock ticks, and then whatever we do, it counts against us. So I'm just, for those, because everybody's a little bit different on this front. Some love it, some hate it, whatever.
Yeah.
We're not a football show. Well, I got us 3 minutes, Weaver.
Football.
A show.
Now, if we don't use 3 minutes today, can we carry over some of that time to the next show?
We are not. I'm sad to say that it was a negotiation point that really bogged us down. Dead into the night.
Yeah, the rollover minutes.
The rollover minutes were disallowed. I know. It was tough. It was tough. I think they felt like we would bank them Monday through Thursday and then spend a good 12, 15 minutes on Fridays.
Speaking of rollover, Boomer Sooner.
So all that to say, Ken, why are you having such a bad day?
Well, my Sooners opened up a 14-0 lead against Navy, then proceeded to remember that they can't compete. Navy tied it up at halftime, 14-14. The Sooners still couldn't compete, dropped 7 passes, 2 of which would have gone for touchdowns, had a 70-yard rush for a touchdown that was pulled back because of a holding penalty. Navy went ahead 21-14. We finally scored a touchdown with 6 seconds left, went for 2, and what a fitting end to the Sooner season, the quarterback was sacked.
Oh.
I would like to respond to that, but I think our 3 minutes are up.
Actually, you got about 35 seconds left. So.
Ken, were you not down like 26 players? I mean,
it's no
Oklahoma.
excuse.
I get it. I mean, I understand it. I mean, I would like to say that I did not win some money on it, but but I don't like to lie to people. So
I understand.
I'll just leave that alone. I saw Navy at +2.5, and I had to take it.
Well, it was smart.
I mean, I had to do what I had to do. Well, I feel we will. And I did get us this exception to the 3-minute rule.
Okay.
That we are allowed to update on the Vandy score today, because that will happen during the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And,
I think they're playing right now.
I think some folks are interested in getting some updates.
Uh-oh, time's up. That's the 3 minutes.
All right, so no more football talk on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, much to the chagrin of some, to the delight of others. Speaking of delights, I had a great experience today. I am proud. A couple of things to note as we begin the show. Number one, good news. I got some good news.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I am currently not wanted in the state of Tennessee.
That's always good to know.
That's good news,
that is. I felt like it was pretty good news, and I discovered that in person with one of Metro Nashville's finest on the way to the studio today.
Oh yeah.
For the first time since I've been in Nash, I was blue lighted. I posted this up on my social media platform at Matt Murphy Show. You can find it on the X machine. But there's three good things that came out of this. One, Nashville's finest are on the job, and that's good. Number two, I currently have no active warrants against me in the state of Tennessee. I don't know how far they go now. I don't know how any of that works, really. But certainly not in the state of Tennessee. And number three, and most importantly, I did not receive what I've always called a good driving award. I did not receive any paperwork as a result of this transaction.
Good for you.
Real good.
Well, here's the tip. So I'm driving in on I-40, and I listen, folks, I just go with the flow of traffic, man. I don't know how fast I'm going.
No, sir.
I'm just trying to keep up with the guy in front of me, and I'm trying to avoid getting run over from the guy behind me. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yes.
Sure.
But if you're listening, Mr. Officer, thank you so much for your kindness and your generosity during this Christmas holiday season. So I just passed Briley Parkway, went under Briley on 40, and he was there where Briley and I-40 meet right before 40 and 24 do their thing. He was sitting there, and he lit me up, and I pulled over, and he said he introduced himself, and I forget his name. Maybe I would give his name. I don't know, but he introduced himself. I'm Officer so-and-so. It was very pleasant. He came up on the passenger side. He said, "My name is Officer so-and-so. And I just want to let you know that you're currently being recorded for your safety and for my safety." And I said, "That's fine." And he said, I had you at 83, and this is currently a 65-mile-an-hour zone, and I feel like you slowed down pretty quick after you saw me." And I said, well, I didn't quite realize I was going that fast, sir. And when I did, I was kind of ashamed. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. And he said, "No problem. Can I get your license?" And I gave him they didn't ask for my insurance. Is that a thing in Tennessee where they don't ask for your insurance?
I think it's all moving electronic. I think they can tell it by your...
Oh, yeah.
Just by pulling up the license, they can tell whether I have... Maybe
I think so.
Maybe so. Well, one way or the other, he did not. But he got my license, and he went back, and he was there for long enough that I thought I was going to get a good driving award. That's when I took the picture of the blue lights in my rear view. And he came back, and he said, "Have a nice day," and handed me my license.
Oh, that's nice.
Be safe.
Slow it down a bit, maybe?
He said, "Be safe. Have a nice day." And I said, "Yes, sir. I sure will. I appreciate it." And I was very, very appreciative. So here's the takeaway. Y'all can be as nasty to these police officers as you want. I mean, it's a free country, but it doesn't do you any good.
No.
Not a bit of good. Be nice to these men and women who are out there working the streets. They're not targeting you. They're not, coming after you just because of who you are or what you're doing. If you're violating the law, they're just trying to keep the safety of the roadways intact. But I do appreciate. I was pretty convinced that I was about to get a ticket, though. Kind of an end of the year thing.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
I mean, everyone,
that quota, baby.
Everybody's convinced that the quota thing is real. I don't know if it's real or not, but everybody's convinced that it's real. Like late in the month, you're more apt to get a ticket. But, I mean, this kind of goes against that. So thank you, officer. If you're listening there at Briley Parkway and I-40 on your radio to 99.7 WTN, I just talked to you, and I appreciate you very much. You were very kind to me. Thank you.
You know what did it?
What do you think?
I just realized this. It was that Mr. Rogers sweater you got on. He was like, "Oh, this guy didn't."
Are you going to give me hell for my sweater, too?
He said,
Bell K saw me. The first thing he said to me is, "Will you please burn that thing?" I like my sweater. Yeah, give it a look. It's nice, isn't it?
That's a nice sweater.
It's fine.
I got the patches on there.
But you can't deny it's got Mr. Rogers vibes.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah. No, we're comfy, cozy.
What you got in the pockets?
I don't know. I could put a sandwich in there. I don't think I could put some toast.
A sandwich in there.
I could put some toast in here.
Yes, sir.
Just put a little piece of toast on the other side.
Yeah.
Here, this is
nothing in there, huh?
This is the look. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, if you're not, this is the time to do it. Here, this is the look.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Got your hands in the pocket.
Yeah.
You gotta have the thumbs out though.
Oh, yeah.
Fingers in, thumbs out.
Yeah, thumbs out. There you
That
go.
where we're
There
going?
you go. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right there. That's for those of you on Super Talk TV, just for y'all. So thank you to Metro Finest. And I mean this with all sincerity. I love the police. I love what they do by and large. I understand that oftentimes the exceptions get far more attention than the rule. And the rule is that these are good, solid people that just want to get home to their families and are doing their best with their mission statement, and that is to protect and to serve us. So I don't begrudge him. I was speeding. I had every expectation that I would get a ticket. But I will say this, as someone who was arrested for a warrant that he was unaware that he had. Have I told you all this story?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Gen's heard it.
I haven't heard this, Brother Murphy.
Yeah, I've got 4 minutes. I can do this. We can talk immigration anytime. So I was in college, and I blew a stop sign and got lit up blowing a stop sign. I was a freshman. Yeah, I think it was my freshman year in college in Carrollton, Georgia. And, guy pulls me over, says, you ran through that stop sign. I'm so sorry, gives me a ticket, and off I go. The ticket, he didn't even take my license from me. He just said, just pay the ticket. And I was like, oh, you're not going to, because it used to be, I don't know if they do this anymore because I don't get stopped enough, but it used to be they took your license as, that kind of created the obligation to appear in court so you can get your license back. That was the leverage that they had against you to make sure that you show up. Now I get, whatever. So anyway, he didn't even take my license. He said, no, just, pay the thing and you'll be fine. So I'm a 18, 19-year-old college student. I put the ticket in the glove box and immediately forget that any of that ever happened. And so a year and a half goes by. No, 2 years go by. I'm now a junior in college. I think I have a different car at this point. So I am on the way to class. I was in a mass communications. It was called Mass Communications and I'm sorry. It was Mass Communications Law and Media. I don't know why they called it that. But it was an upper-level mass comm course. And half of the class was predicated on the final paper, which was a big deal. Like you had to meet with the professor and go over what your treatment was, your synopsis and all this. So I had my final paper, and this was the day I was turning in my final paper, which was half of the entire semester grade. It was a 60-something page paper. It was a big deal. And I'm driving along, and I get pulled over by the police, and he comes up to me, he gets my license and my insurance and says, your tag is expired. He said, it's only 30 days expired, your little tag, so, I'll probably just let you off with one. Let me just run this thing, we'll be done here. I said, okay, great, got to get to class. And the next thing I heard was him on the loudspeaker.
Mr. Murphy, I need you to step out of the car, please.
Citizen,
I need you to step out of the car, please.
And I look back, and he's standing behind his door with his little walkie-talkie on. And I thought, oh, this isn't good. So I get out of the car, and he waves me to his vehicle, and he says, I need you to go ahead and turn around and put your hands on the hood of the car. And I said, okay. And he said, I'm just going to search you. You don't have any sharp objects or weapons on you, do you? No, sir. He takes everything out of my pockets, puts everything on the thing, and then turns me around and puts me in handcuffs and puts me in the back of his car. And he gathers all my stuff, and he sits back in the front seat of his car, and he says, would you like for me to lock your vehicle? Still hasn't told me anything. Says, would you like for me to lock your vehicle? I said, for some reason, I said, no. I said, no, don't lock my vehicle. Because all I was worried about was getting my paper to class. Because I knew that there was a hard and fast, no extensions, no exceptions, must be there on that day or you get a 0. So I said, sir, would you mind telling me what's going on? He said, you have a bench warrant for your arrest for failure to appear. And I'm still like, what are you talking about? You have the wrong person. I sat in the back of his car saying, you have the wrong person. This is not right. And he said, and he called up and he said, can you give me a 1080, I don't know what the codes were. You give me a 1087 on that 42. And it came back and he said, failure to appear for a moving violation. And I finally, it hit me. And I'm like, oh no. And I said, what happens now? And he said, well, you have to go to jail is what happens now. And you have to get bailed out of jail. And I said, okay. And I said, sir, you don't owe me anything here, but is it at all, I swear I asked him this. I was 20, whatever. Said, is there any way you can take me by class and so I can turn in my paper? And that's what he did. He started laughing. And he said, he started laughing. He said, I don't mean to laugh. We're way beyond your paper at this point. And I'm like, okay. So he takes me to jail. And I get to jail, and I called the mass communications department because it was right beside the theater department. And I talked to Patty Giles. I'll never forget Miss Patty because she helped me out. And I said, is there anybody in the theater room? And she went, and there was Lori Burnett. And I said, Lori, go to my car, which is right off campus, and get my paper out of the car and turn it in, which she did.
That's a good friend there.
It was a good friend. It was great. She turned it in an hour late, and I still got a 0 on it, but whatever.
Good thing you left it unlocked.
So I have
At
to
least
go.
you had effort.
Well, so it was bad. It was bad. So the moral of the story is, kids, take all of those tickets that you get seriously, and treat the police with a little bit of respect. The post-mortem on the story was, I got a 0 on the paper, Dr. Chester Gibson, and I appealed it to the School of Arts and Sciences because his syllabus said that no extensions would be granted. And I argued before a panel, like 12 people, that the paper was complete, that I was not asking for an extension. I was asking for an exception based on my inability to appear in person. And one of the people said, why were you unable to appear in person? And I said, because I was in the Carroll County Detention Facility in jail. And they granted it to me.
Wow, that helped your case, huh?
Helped me out.
Way to go, dude.
He still gave me a C. Dr. Gibson was a jerk.
That's better than an F.
Anyway, so that's that story. That's the last time that I was run afoul of the law there, Ken Weaver.
That's good.
So
That's good, Brother Murphy.
That story never leaves you. I am now 51 years old. That happened when I was 22. Every time I get stopped by a police officer, every time I have an official interaction with a police officer, for some reason in the back of my head, I was like, am I going to get arrested? And I know I haven't done anything. I'm a straight arrow, but it's always there.
So when the door clinged shut, did you immediately look out the toughest person in there and clock him in the face?
But I did set, I was in a group of people, and there was a guy in there, and it was probably 10 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock by then in the morning. And this guy was drunk as Cooter Brown, and he had a tracheotomy.
Oh, goodness.
And he had...
Wow.
No, this will make you, seriously, this will make you reevaluate where you are in your life. The guy had a tracheotomy, and he had one of those voice box things. Yeah. And for some reason, they let him keep it, I guess because they wanted him to have the ability to communicate with people. And so he's sitting next to me. And I can't understand a thing he's saying. Talk to me for 45 minutes, drunk with it. And I'm just, and I'm sitting there going, I've really got to get my crap together. This is no good. But they did give me 2 calls. The first call was to the mass comm department. The second call was trying to get out of jail, which eventually happened. So that's good. But that never leaves you, folks. Every time. So over the years, you see, police officers come into an establishment and they're doing some sort of official business. I was like, I wonder if they're here for me.
Yeah.
So bottom line is, that's nice to know that I have no outstanding warrants in the state of Tennessee. I hope you don't either. It's 24 after the hour. We'll get into immigration and all of the rest of it. There's plenty to talk about on this 27th day of December, a Friday edition of the Matt Murphy Show.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Well, the Biden administration pushing new cybersecurity rules. These stories and more coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, close to news time at 3:30, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My apologies for running a little bit tardy there. Matt Murphy and you, it's a Friday edition of the Matt Murphy Show. That means Friday at 4:05. For those not able to listen between noon and 3 on a day-to-day basis, as I was there for about 3 years, every Friday we enjoy Fry J with my good friend, legal correspondent Jay St. Clair. He's one of the most brilliant legal minds I've ever met in my life. He's also a good Tennessee man, grew up in the Sequatchie Valley, and went to the University of Tennessee before getting to Yale. And now he's on with us every Friday, starting at 4:05 this afternoon. Any and all of your questions will be answered. He answers legal questions on the fly. So all you have to do is get them in via the super text line, 615-737-9986, or really the phone lines too. And we'll answer any and all of your questions. We have a few questions of our own about H-1B visas, which is the topic of conversation when we return. So Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who have been charged with the duty of right-sizing government in some form or fashion, seeing where we can see government savings, getting us on track to balance our budgets again, and it's going to take a while to get there. But they are beginning that process. They have also weighed in on the idea of immigration. Not illegal immigration, legal immigration. And I've been surprised at the number of people that would not suggest, but would out and out tell you they don't want legal immigration anymore in the United States of America. And I'm curious where you are. 615-737-9986. Do you believe the United States of America needs or should want legal immigration from other countries? I'll give my take, and I'm interested in yours. 615-737-9986. It's time for the news on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, tracking the potential for severe weather this weekend in Middle Tennessee. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. The Biden administration proposing new cybersecurity rules they say will limit impact to healthcare data leaks. U.S. Department National Security Advisor for Cybersecurity Ann Neuberger says these revisions add new requirements to try to improve what's already in place.
In the last 5 years, there's been an alarming growth, 1,002%, in the number of Americans affected by large breaches of healthcare information, over 167 million individuals in 2023 alone.
The proposals include encrypting data so it cannot be accessed, even if leaked, and requiring compliance checks to ensure networks meet cybersecurity rules. Tennessee may soon be able to resume executing condemned killers by lethal injection. There hasn't been any since 2022 when Governor Lee ordered a pause after it was learned the state may have allowed expired, compromised, or untested chemicals in at least 2 executions. Well, today, the State Department of Correction announced it has completed its review of the lethal injection protocol and will use a single drug, pentobarbital, moving forward, rather than the 3-drug mix, as was used before. It's up to the state Supreme Court to schedule execution dates, but the Tennessean says as of this morning's announcement, there had been none. Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez says investigators are working to identify the New York City subway victim who was burned beyond recognition and believed to have been homeless.
Many investigators are working to identify her. Her body was badly burned, and so advanced fingerprinting efforts are being made, as well as advanced DNA evidence.
Illegal immigrant Sebastian Cepeda is expected to appear in court for arraignment on January 7th. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. White House, Sumner County, a crash, 65 southbound right near Bethel Road. Then near the airport, we've got an accident, 40 eastbound right before Briley Parkway. Downtown, Representative John Lewis Way at Peabody Street. And near Percy Warner, got a crash reported on Highway 100 at Vaughn's Gap Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. This is the Matt Murphy Show. Thank you for being with us on this Friday edition. We are found in a variety of places, of course, on the radio, 99.7 FM, 100,000 watts of blowtorch power from coast to coast, if you will. That would be from Alabama to Kentucky and all points in between. We are also found on internet streaming platforms, really any platform of your choosing. You choose that, you type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN, whether it's, iHeart or whatever it might be. And we're there. You can also download our own app and take us wherever you go. And for you masochists in the listening audience, if you want to watch on television, YouTube TV up and running, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Just like, subscribe, do what you need to do over there to give your support. Give us a little bit of a thumbs up. By the way, Weber, before I get away from it and start talking immigration, I want to thank you for not calling me out because things were texted in haste. You know, I get pulled over and my first thought is, my first thought is I don't want to get a ticket. But, if I get a ticket, so be it. I was going 83.
Yeah.
My second thought is I need to alert the powers that be, that would be you, that I may be cutting it close.
Detained.
I don't know. And so at 2:14 in the p.m., I wrote, pulled over for speeding, be there soon. And then I wrote, things were texted in haste.
Yeah.
Things were texted in haste. Would you care to share with the audience what I texted?
That's your business. I wasn't going to say anything. So if you want to share, you can share.
Do it. Share it.
I said, stupid cops. and then he let me off with a warning. And so I take it back. I take it all back. Things are said in haste emotionally. We should.
He's listening right now, and they're flagging your tag, dude.
I didn't mean it, sir. I didn't mean it. I was very emotional. I was worried that I would break my streak of not getting a ticket. It's been a long time, so I apologize. But thank you for not calling me out on that. Stupid cops. But everybody's felt it and thought that. By the way, Weaver, are you monitoring the Vanderbilt game?
I am indeed. I do have an update if you boys would like to hear it.
I wouldn't mind.
All right, we have 2:36 left to go in the second quarter, and we are tied up. The Yellow Jackets 7 and the Commodores 7.
Anchor down.
Vandy's got the ball, 3rd and 8 to go on the GT9.
There we go.
Where is this game?
Birmingham.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Birmingham, Alabama had the new protective, I think it's the Protective Life Stadium. Nice little, 40,000 seat stadium down there they built down near the downtown area.
Birmingham Bowl.
Yeah, the old Birmingham Bowl used to be in Legion Field, which was an absolute dump.
Yeah.
And has been a dump for a long time. But now they got that brand new stadium. Oh, yeah. Just keep us up to date. I can't get the game in my studio.
Why not?
Not that I was looking. I'm focused like a laser beam on the news.
Well, that's what you should have said. Well, Ken, I got to pay attention to the news.
I got to watch the news.
Can't get the game in here.
But I went over to the ESPN, and it said that I couldn't have it. I don't know what's going on. I'm glad that you have access in the newsroom to keep us up to date.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here watching it on the old Gamecast. Looks like old Diego Pavia's having a good time.
It's the end of the year, man. Weaver's not even pretending. I got the news covered. I'm watching this game, too.
Yeah. There's been some sort of explosion.
On the football field? Or?
It was Navy on the Sooners.
All right, let's get back to the real news, and we'll get an update on the Vanderbilt football game coming up in just a moment. So, on the issue of immigration, the hubbub surrounds Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and this is a gross oversimplification of what has happened. But the hubbub exists because Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have argued on social media that there is a need to continue and perhaps even expand the visa program known as H-1B, which is a visa program designed for highly skilled workers to come into the United States of America and to work. Musk and Ramaswamy obviously have been tapped by Donald Trump to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, which is organized in an effort to seek out and eliminate government waste, as we are I think last year we overspent by $1.8 trillion. $1.8 trillion. That's a lot of money, and we have to stop it. Donald Trump, during his first term, restricted access to foreign worker visas and has targeted the H-1B program in past remarks as something that he wants to look into. During the 2024 campaign, Trump signaled openness to giving some foreign workers legal status if they graduated from a United States university. In a social media post day before yesterday, Musk said U.S. tech companies need double the amount of engineers working in America today and compared the benefits of the program to a professional sports team recruiting the best talent from around the world. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be, said Musk. That enables the whole team to win. In this case, the team being the United States of America. So the question then is, do you believe that there is a purpose and a place for immigration in the United States? Now, I am on record as proposing this. Legal immigration should obviously exist in my mind. I do believe that there should be an avenue for legal immigration in the United States of America. But it should exist almost exclusively to benefit the United States of America, almost exclusively. The only exceptions that I would make are real humanitarian crises that present a real and present danger of death to populations around the world. Those are legitimate asylum claims. Sadly, the asylum claim has been delegitimized over the last 4 years and really even before that. Some select immigration benefits our country immensely and has for a long time. I would recommend to you that we would never have won the space race were it not for German engineers. Werner von Braun comes to mind. Werner von Braun was so important to our abilities to create rocket systems that could propel atomic bombs to places that we wanted to destroy. Werner von Braun was so important to the United States space race where we felt like the Cold War would begin or would advance, that we forgave him for being a Nazi. Werner von Braun was a Nazi, and we forgave him for that because of the importance of bringing the knowledge and expertise that he brought to the table on our team, to use the analogy that Elon Musk used. Now, all that to say, I have no problem with the H-1B visa program, so long as it first, second, middle, and last exists to benefit the United States of America. There will obviously be a residual benefit to the immigrant themselves. We are, after all, the greatest country on God's green earth. As I said yesterday, we have all of this upside down. America is not great because of immigration. Immigration exists because America is great. And that doesn't diminish the role that immigrants have had over the generations and the years that America has existed. But liberals want to suggest that America's greatness is embedded in immigrants. America's greatness is embedded in our Constitution and our foundation and our belief in liberty and freedom and the ability for free men to succeed or to fail based on their own merit and their own abilities, their own talents, their own work ethic. That's what brings people to this country, and many, many great people from around the world want to come here, and we should allow it. That said, before we talk about any of this or any other legal immigration practice, we need a policy reset regarding immigration. And we must stop the flood of illegal alien activity before we do anything else. So very simply, I would give you the 3 planks of the Murphy Plan. Number 1, declare a state of emergency and a 6-month, I could be talked into a 12-month, a 6-month or 12-month moratorium on all immigration in the United States of America. All of it. Every bit of it. Legal, whatever. Every bit of it. No immigration for a, let's say, 12-month period of time. In order to focus on border security and focus on illegal alien and criminal alien removal. We cannot do both at the same time. It obviously appears. And only after utilizing our abilities as a federal government to remove those individuals that ought not to be here and to shut down for once and for all our borders to prevent other illegal aliens from coming in here. And by the way, if you don't think it's a state of emergency already, look up the fentanyl numbers. You look up the drug running. You look up the gun running. You look up the human trafficking and the human smuggling. We have a state of emergency that has been going on for at least 4 years in our country, and no one in the mainstream media wants to talk about it because it looks bad for Democrats, because Democrats don't care about any of that. They just care about votes. Number 3. So, number 1, state of emergency, 6, 12-month moratorium. And the more I think about it, the more I think 6 months is too little. I'll go 12. Number 2, focus on border security and illegal alien and criminal alien removal. Number 3, and you can do number 3 simultaneous to number 2, begin discussions on a revamped immigration policy designed to benefit the United States of America and, by extension, those who are immigrating into our country. This is an American first policy. To suggest that we do not, as a nation, need to take advantage of foreign sources of skilled labor is ridiculous. Why wouldn't we want to recruit them to our team? That's my take. What's your take? 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Let's start with Tom in Smyrna. Hello, Tom.
Hey, welcome to the drive afternoons anyway.
Thank you, brother.
You about said what I was thinking. My first thing was that I think we need to, I agree with legal immigration. I think we should stop everything like you for at least a year. Let's get our other stuff straight, maybe get some of the bad illegals out. And then I think, and maybe not going back to what we used to do, but similar to what we used to do, where you were vetted to come in this country. You had to have paperwork to come into this country. And you had to go, I've got friends that are from other countries. You have to go every so often and have your paperwork updated just to work here or to be a student here. And I think if we go back to that, we get the advantage of the skilled laborers that come over. We get the advantage of the people that aren't going to cause us any grief. Plus, if they're filing their paperwork to come here, they need to have the money to come here instead of us supporting them. That's just my take.
Oh, Tom, obviously, we cannot have, and this is the primary goal of my plan is to reset our thinking about why we allow immigration to occur in the first place. We engage in immigration practices at this point in 2024/2025 to benefit the United States of America, first and foremost. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. Sadly, a lot of liberal-leaning media networks would suggest to you that there's something wrong in that concept. What's wrong in that concept? Many other industrialized and civilized nations do it just this way. Let me promise you something. If Chris Webber wants to immigrate to Australia, which after a couple of days with me, he probably will, I don't know.
I've already thought about it, actually.
Well, good luck. You better bring some skills, baby. You got to have the skills to pay the bills in Australia. Otherwise, no thank you. And many, that's just one example of many. So there's nothing wrong with that. But by the way, our I got a text message. I don't know that I should talk about it though.
Uh-oh.
You know how we opened the show?
Yeah.
Talking about I got a text message.
Well,
all I'm going to say is thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
All right.
52 after the hour on Super Talk.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Deadly landslide, deadly explosion. Details coming up at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Let's talk. What Elon said, what Vivek said, wrong, right? I told you what my plan was. 615-737-9986. It's Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN this Friday edition. We got Friday coming up next hour. We've got Getting to Know You coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today. The much ballyhooed segment that we're recranking it up. We're starting it back up. It's called Getting to Know. I did this when I first came to Nashville, and everybody hated it. So we're cranking it back up for another go. But this time, Ken Weaver and Chris Webber are involved, and I feel like we we got a shot at it second time around.
So you're saying we're going to carry the segment? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I need questions out of you. I need a question out of Weaver and a question out of Ken Weaver and a question out of Chris Weber. That's what I need.
I got something in mind.
And I will, and I am guaranteeing that I'm going to transpose your names before all is said and done. Did Brian ever do that? Ever transpose?
Yeah, occasionally.
They give you the old Chris Weber and Ken Weaver. Oh, wait, no, that was right. That was right.
You've already convinced yourself.
Coming down. Forget about it. Ken Weber and Chris Weaver.
Yes, sir.
It's the double W that'll get you. That's what gets me. All right, so we'll continue discussing the immigration issue. And by the way, Jay St. Clair has some intimate knowledge in this. He had a pretty big case involving H-1B visas, and he can give you an intimate idea of what we are actually talking about. A lot of conversation on the super text line, 615-737-9986. 5042 says, back in the day when Obama became president, I tried to move to Australia. No way. They said I did not have the skills they needed for their country, and I worked for the American federal government.
Explains a lot, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like the last sentence explained the first one to a good degree. We kid 5042. I'm sure you're skilled labor. And a lot of other conversation, and a lot of you say shut it all down. And I'm curious what you think that would lead to if we were to shut it all down. There's a lot of considerations regarding whether or not we have the amount of engineers that we actually need here in this country and what it would take to get them. We'll discuss it all with our man, Jay St. Clair, coming up next. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now in Kentucky, 2 men are dead after a landslide in southeastern Kentucky. Their families called the Clay County Sheriff's Office hours after they didn't return home. Crews found them hours later after they didn't return home. They were under debris where the side of a mountain had slid onto the road near an old coal mine, where reports say the 2 men were digging for coal to heat their home for the winter. At least one person is dead after an explosion at a Tyson poultry plant in Camilla, Georgia. Happened early this morning. Radio calls recorded by Broadcastify.com revealed dispatchers sending first responders to the scene.
You can see fire over the back of the building. Appears to be the northeast corner of the building.
Union representing plant workers blaming the blast on a boiler explosion and saying several workers were severely burned. It seems Tennessee might be ready to resume lethal injection executions after a 2-year pause. Governor Lee in 2022 ordered a third-party review after it was learned the state wasn't following protocol and may have used expired, compromised, or untested chemicals on at least 2 death row inmates. Today, the State Department of Corrections announced the review is over and it has decided to use a single drug moving forward, pentobarbital, instead of the 3-drug mix they were using before. The Department of Health and Human Services proposing new cybersecurity rules it says will limit the impact of healthcare data leaks. U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor for Cybersecurity Ann Neuberger warns more than 100 million Americans were affected by breaches in 2023 alone.
We see hospitals forced to operate manually. We see Americans' sensitive healthcare data, sensitive mental health procedures, sensitive procedures being leaked on the dark web with the opportunity to blackmail individuals with that.
The proposals include encrypting data so it cannot be accessed even if it is leaked, and requiring compliance checks to ensure networks meet cybersecurity rules. Back here in Tennessee, police identified the suspect in yesterday's deadly workplace stabbing at the Kroger Distribution Center in Memphis as 55-year-old Anderson Todd. Witnesses claim Todd tried to avoid a fight, but the victim, 38-year-old Jacoby Hobson, invited Todd to where there are no cameras, and when Todd refused, Hobson allegedly pulled down Todd's cap over his eyes, and the argument became physical. The argument, by the way, was over football. A witness attempted to break up the fight, claims Hobson collapsed onto the floor, having been stabbed several times. Todd walked into the break room and waited for police to arrive. Hobson was pronounced dead on the scene. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, TDOT still reporting a crash in Sumner County, 65 southbound near Bethel Road. That's at exit 104 in White House. Looks like an injury accident reported by police, Highway 100 at Vaughn's Gap Road in Percy Warner. And then Briley Parkway, northbound off-ramp to Opry Mills, got some ramp restrictions in effect. That's right there at exit 11. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Thank you for being with us. Whether you're listening on the radio, whether you're listening on a streaming platform of your choosing, perhaps our own app, or perhaps you're watching on Super Talk TV, we appreciate every single one of you. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number. That is also the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. We give those numbers often and as quickly as possible just to keep you on your toes. Considering that, I invite you to get any and all of your legal questions in as we're prepared to start Friday here in just a couple of minutes. It's episode 717 of ours. It's also locked for Trump Day 300. It's a Friday. And hope you got big weekend plans. And before I forget about it, let's go ahead and say this. Considering that it's on my mind because I had a wonderful interaction with a nice police officer with the Metro Nashville Police Department who was very kind, reminded me that he wagged his finger at me and told me I was driving a little too fast for the speed limit. And but he offered me a warning and allowed me to go about my way. I appreciate all of those officers protecting and serving the general public, especially during the holidays and especially on the weekends. All of you weekend warriors, you officers, you EMTs, firefighters, doctors, nurses, everybody that works in the hospital system or in emergency care, and, of course, restaurateurs, convenience store workers. We love and appreciate all of you, and we thank you for everything that you do. Talking about the conversation, you know, it appears to me that GOP on GOP violence rises in prominence and prevalence when the GOP wins elections. And I'm not a Republican. I don't claim to be a Republican. I'm a libertarian with a small L. I don't belong to any club that would have me as a member, so I'm not a part of the Republican Party, a Libertarian Party, any party. At the same time, I am a somewhat neutral observer, despite the fact that I vote Republican more than anything else. I can remember the last time I voted for a Democrat. That was in 1992. I was still skull full of mush in college, voted for Bill Clinton, thought he was cool. Did not make that mistake twice. That said, the occurrence of GOP on GOP violence rises in prevalence considerably when the GOP wins elections. And it occurs to me that we're seeing a number of examples of that. One, with this visa conversation and immigration conversation, it feels as if most Republicans / conservatives, even many libertarians, are on the same page with regard to illegal immigration. Maybe we're not on the same page with regard to legal immigration. I would suggest that just days ago there was a similar example of GOP on GOP violence with regard to Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and the continuing resolution. And frankly, I think many conservatives got a lot of what they wanted. Not everything, but a lot of what they wanted with regard to these continuing resolutions and the suggestion that overspending is no way to run this railroad. We'll discuss that down the way. And then there's a third example that I want to talk to you about in the 5 o'clock hour involving the Tennessee Scholarship Program and that debate that is set to come up here in the next couple of weeks in the Tennessee General Assembly. But right now, at 10 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock, it's our opportunity to talk the law with our legal expert, my life consultant, gambling buddy, and best friend. He's a Tennessee man. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday. Oh, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. It's got a jazzy, I don't know. Can you hear that, Jay?
Oh, it's great.
That's
Absolutely
good.
Great.
Oh, yeah, that's a Chris Webber special right there. A little jazzy number, little jazzed up version of the Perry Mason that we've come to know and love. Jay, how are you?
If I were any better, Matt, I would be my Secretary of Homeland Security.
Miss Olivia?
She is so excited right now because she knows I'm going to be talking to you.
Well, and this is a new little adventure that we've got going because you and I are now official on Super Talk TV. And,
nice.
And I have the ugly filter. You've got the pretty filter.
I got the old filter.
We give that pretty
Hey, Chris, take that filter off that makes me look 20 years older.
I'll work on that.
So for those who have always wanted to see Jay and I on Super Talk TV, we've launched that now that we're in the afternoon hours. And you sound great. You look great. And I hope your Christmas went well, my friend.
Oh, it was great. It was absolutely great. You know, my grandkids are now 9 and 5, Matt, which is just perfect Christmas ages.
That's the zone, man.
Yeah. No, so it's good. I'm in a really good place right now, man. You know that.
What was the favored Christmas present in the St. Clair household for the youngsters? Did they have a favorite, or did they just like them all?
Well, they get a lot, so it's hard to pick. But the one I was most interested in were the pogo sticks.
Pogo sticks.
What do you think the chances are that I tried to ride a pogo stick?
Here's what I would say. You getting close to a pogo stick would be very similar to you getting close to the edge of the Hoover Dam.
That's exactly right. Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Have you ever heard of gasoline-powered pogo sticks?
No, I haven't.
So my father-in-law told me about this years ago. Bob said that they existed. They were one-cylinder pogo sticks that you would bounce on, and it would piston it down, and it would spark when it came back up. And much like lawn darts, that just doesn't seem like a very good idea.
No, that's funny. My best friend growing up rode a unicycle to school.
What?
Yeah, he rode a unicycle to school.
I don't understand those people. I don't understand people that have good balance, Jay. I just don't.
Well, I don't.
No, that's why I befriend people who are like me, who, if they don't mind their P's and Q's, they tump over. I'm like that.
Yep.
Well, a lot to discuss, and I feel like this is something that you might have a little background on, considering something that you told me when we were discussing the show today, H-1B visas.
Right.
Jay, what are H-1B visas? And let's start right there.
Yeah, so the work visa, when you come into the country and you're not a citizen, then I think for any reason you have to have a visa. And those visas allow you to do different things. The highest thing you can do is work. And not many visas allow you to work. So these are visas that allow you to work for a temporary period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the initial period is 3 years, and they can be extended for another 3 years, up to 6 years. But not just anybody can get these visas, man. They have to have, number one, at least a college degree. And number two, they have to have some proficiency in a profession. Can't be a dish diggers don't get HB1 visas.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what the person coming in has to bring. But then the company that's bringing them in, they have to show that they can't get a U.S. citizen to do this job. And they have to also show that bringing in this foreign national to do this job temporarily will not cause any harm to any U.S. citizens. And they also have to show that they're going to pay them the market rate for this job. I mean, that's the way it's all set up on paper.
Okay.
So it's a temporary work visa for sort of, I don't know if I'd say highly skilled, but for professional people, not manual labor.
So at least on pay, and this is a good place to start, because at least on paper, H-1B visas, there are some fail-safes to design the program in a way that prevents it from hiring foreign workers at the exclusion of American workers, if I'm hearing you correctly.
No, that's exactly right. That's the way it's designed on paper.
Now, do you believe that it works that way in practice?
No, not all the time. Absolutely not. Nothing's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly nothing that's run by the government is perfect. And are there companies that take advantage of it? Absolutely. Just like there are the tax code or any other, provision of law. So I'm sure it's being taken advantage of and is hurting some U.S. citizens. Nothing's perfect, man.
But the idea is to bring in, maybe, I don't want to overstate it by saying the best and the brightest, but to bring in.
Well, that's a good place to start. I'll tell you, I'll give you two perfect examples for HB1 visas.
Okay.
Perfect example. Warner von Braun.
You know
who that? Who that is?
How long have we been friends?
You probably knew that was what I was going to say.
Well, right? I used it as an example an hour ago.
Oh, yeah, we've been around each other a long time.
A long time. But talk about, because you lived up there in Huntsville. You know a lot more about Warner von Braun than I do.
Oh yeah, no, I can tell you the whole story about it. But he had knowledge about rockets that no one in the United States had. He knew more about it than anybody in the United States. There's this great story where at the end he escaped, came across enemy lines and surrendered. And he said to the U.S., so we're rocket scientists. And they all laughed and said, yeah, right. And so they brought him over here, and I think they sent him out to Stanford, to our best and brightest space people.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to prove that this guy didn't know what he was talking about. And after about 3 days, they came out and said, this guy's a rocket scientist.
Right.
And so he is a perfect example for an HB1 visa. And I'll tell you another person, a perfect example for an HB1 visa.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk.
Well, there you go. right?
Well, I now have a third one.
Okay.
And this is for a little different reasons, but I still think this qualifies. Melania Trump.
Oh, wow.
Although she might be an O1 visa. That's for entertainers. But I'd put her really kind of in that same category. So, yeah, it's for – you don't have to be at that super high level, but it's not agricultural jobs. It's not menial labor jobs. It's not migrant workers. There's a different visa for that, different set of rules that apply for that. This is for skilled professionals.
And I read this morning that the amounts that we're talking about are not necessarily, relatively speaking, that great. We're talking.
Right. I think right now the annual limit is 65,000.
Okay, so annually you can have H-1B visas, 65,000 H-1B visas for highly skilled or skilled workers,
right,
to immigrate to the United States. But that doesn't give them permanent residency, correct?
No, it's temporary work visa. Initially, it's good for 3 years, Matt, and then it can be extended, I think, for another 3 years for a maximum of 6 years.
And so the argument that we're hearing, and I understand there's a lot of different opinions on this, but I think some of the opinions on this may be coming out of a place of ignorance, and I'm not saying a place of stupidity, legitimate ignorance, that right. People aren't aware of this stuff. Like you just taught me something, Jay. I was not aware of some of the rules involved in the H-1B visa program. So it occurs to me that education is key when understanding why we would allow this program to continue, because a lot of people don't want it. A lot of people say, shut it down.
Right. Yeah, no, that's right. But it is very complicated. It's very nuanced, and it's easy to have uninformed opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you understand it a lot, and I would say I understand quite a lot of it, I don't understand all of it. And there's this, man, there's a big difference between what it looks like on paper and what it looks like in the real world.
Well, and that, and it's kind of where the rubber meets the road. You and I have talked about this, broadening the conversation out to immigration policy generally. I want to do this in a minute because you've educated me a lot on what the immigration law says in terms of what employers can and cannot do, what they can and cannot ask, what they're allowed to require and what they're not allowed to require when it comes to hiring people, and the idea that they have to take people at their word, or at least the documents that they present to them at their word, and can't really go down the road of becoming law enforcement when it comes to some of this stuff. We'll continue with Jay St. Clair in just a moment. Right now, it's 20 after the hour. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
President-elect Trump is asking the Supreme Court to pause the law that could ban TikTok. This story and more coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, we get to keep our TikTok. I like that. Well, not really. I kid. I don't really use the TikTok. I'm more of an X Machine kind of guy. It's 24 minutes after the hour. Speaking of X Machine, you can find our man Jay St. Clair on the X Machine at, I think I'm saying this right, at St. Oh, no, I don't. Now I've lost it. Jay, do you remember it?
Yeah, I think it's J. St. Clair. I can't believe that somebody took the J. St. Clair handle.
Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah, and so you just put an ST on the front of J. St. Clair. And you got to say,
Well, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
So you got to say
Twitter
it right.
did that for me. I think it made that name up.
Oh, did it? Oh, well, there you go. Well, but you got to Jay's funny on the Tweeter machine, so you need to find him over there. And you can find me at Matt Murphy Show. So a lot of questions coming in regarding our conversation with H-1Bs, and I want to get through those. And then if you have any other questions regarding anything in the law, Jay's here for you, 615-737-9986. Get them in on the super text line or on the phone lines. So how is the program abused is a question that I'm getting in a lot of different varieties. I would expect that just like anything else, people find loopholes or just they don't follow the letter of the law. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's fair. And let me be a little bit more specific than that. In explaining the job, the company has to submit paperwork to the government to get it approved. And the job has to be sort of high level, highly skilled, and so forth. Companies can overstate the complexity of the job. They can just lie.
Mm-hmm.
They can also lie about whether they are not able to fill the jobs with U.S. citizens. They can just lie, man. I mean, it's breaking the law. It's illegal. But you were going a little too fast this week yourself.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you.
So it happens.
Sometimes you break the law.
Yeah, sometimes you break the law, and I'd say that's probably the main ways the law is not enforced as written.
So, where do you see? I mean, do you see a value in your line of work? And for those who don't know or are unfamiliar, I mean, this is Jay's wheelhouse. He is an employment attorney and the finest one in the nation, in my opinion. Is there a need for H-1B visas in America?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm weird about words. I don't know that I would use the word need, but I would say there is a purpose for it.
Okay.
It serves a good purpose. We are better off having work visas for highly talented people to come into the country than we would be if they weren't. We wouldn't have Elon Musk here. We wouldn't have Werner von Braun. So yeah, there is a purpose. There is a good purpose behind this law, and I thought Elon Musk said it just right, and I just don't see how anybody could disagree with this. That he's saying, look, we want the top 1/10 of the 1% of the people. That's who he's talking about,
right?
And it's so ironic to me, man. He comes at this with more perspective than probably anybody. I bet you he came to the U.S. on an HB-1 visa.
Right.
He is an immigrant, and he's at that high level. And so that's what he's saying is we want these people. So yeah, there is a salutary purpose in allowing these kinds of visas. It is not where it goes awry, is particularly in the tech industry. Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I was involved in a case. It was a very highly publicized case. I sent you some news articles about it. I won't mention the name of the company out of respect for them. But it ended up with a $34 million fine. Nobody went to prison, but it was a big deal. And the allegation there is that the laws were being fudged and that people were coming in and the jobs they were doing is computer jobs. So this is where most of this activity is taking place, man. It's on coders.
Mm-hmm.
It's very low-level computer jobs that takes tens of thousands of people. I mean, it's very labor-intensive. And So that's where the real issues are. I have another client. They're based here in Birmingham, and they, I'm respectful of my clients. I don't mention them, but you might have had one of these companies' products with a smile. Mhm. And so it's a very first rate company in all respects. Well, they needed an IT person, just one, not 100, not 1,000, not 10,000, just one. But they needed some very specific skills. They could not find anyone, any U.S. citizen with those skills that was willing to take that job. And so they actually went through the hurdles to get an HB1 person in to do just that one job. And I think in that situation, that was a salutary use of that law. But where the real controversy exists are the tech companies that are hiring thousands of people, Matt, to do very low-level jobs, coders, and they pay them not a lot of money.
So
by U.S. standards.
Is there a way to challenge them in terms of, you mentioned right at the beginning of the conversation that they're required to pay them a rate of pay that would be equitable to an American worker?
That's right. Market rates. They have to submit data when they apply to have these jobs approved. It says we've done a wage survey and here's what these jobs are paying in this community, and we're going to pay the market rate for these jobs.
So it would seem to me a good option would be, instead of considering eliminating some of these H-1B visas, would be to go after those individuals that are aggressively, perhaps, well, not even aggressively,
just enforce the
law, right?
Enforce the law as written. That's right.
I love it.
That's right.
I absolutely love it. Get your questions in here with Jay St. Clair. We got the news with Ken Weaver right now. Jay, he's on the Zoom, and everybody's loving that. I'll give you some of those comments as well, plus your super text. Any legal question you got, 615-737-9986. It's The Murphy Show on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We are tracking the potential for severe weather in Middle Tennessee. Tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. President-elect Trump asking the Supreme Court today to pause the law that could ban TikTok unless its Chinese owner sells the app to an American company. The request is in a 25-page amicus brief filed with the court today to stay the January 19th deadline, which is one day before Inauguration Day. Trump says that way his administration can try to negotiate a deal. A challenge to the law is set for oral arguments before those justices on January 10th, in addition to what Trump filed today. The Biden administration proposes new cybersecurity rules to limit the impact of healthcare data leaks. U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor for Cybersecurity Ann Neuberger warns more than 100 million Americans were affected by breaches of confidential medical information in 2023 alone.
The proposed rule would add new cybersecurity requirements and improve existing security requirements, adding additional clarity and specificity.
Yeah, that would include encrypting data so it cannot be accessed, even if leaked, and requiring compliance checks to ensure networks meet cybersecurity rules. 2 men are dead in a landslide in Kentucky. Their family called the Clay County Sheriff's Office after they didn't return home. Crews located the men under debris where the side of a mountain near an old coal mine had come down. The men were digging for coal to heat their homes this winter. And at least one person's dead after an explosion at a Tyson poultry plant in Camilla, Georgia early this morning. Radio calls recorded by Broadcastify.com revealed dispatchers sending first responders to the scene.
Be advised, we've received multiple calls. Something has exploded on the processing side of Tyson plant.
The union representing plant workers blaming the blast on a boiler explosion and saying several workers were severely burned. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, TDOT's still reporting a crash 65 southbound near Bethel Road in White House, and Representative John Lewis Way at Peabody Street downtown. Police reporting that one here in Nashville. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Populations of animals. I mean, think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey and what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years, I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
You're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And my first commission in 1972.
Okay, yeah.
At that time, it was a little different. The whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, we got the first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to. If you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or sailing a pond or whatever you were doing. You had that tie on.
Oh wow!
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. It was generally around April 1st. You switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, "Come on, April 1st."
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 438. Matt Murphy, Jay St. Clair, Friday in progress. Thank you for being with us on this December 27th, our last Friday before the new year. 2025 is, wait a minute, no. Yeah, no, I guess it is our last Friday. We have a Monday and a Tuesday, but no Friday. We'll be here Monday, Tuesday. We'll be off Wednesday and then back after it Thursday and Friday. Before I get back to Jay St. Clair, who awaits your questions on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. On my end, are you good on your end on the phones? Because on my end, it says not connected.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks good on this side.
Okay, good. Sometimes that happens. That's all well and good. If you want to call or you want to super text, I got a couple on the line anyway, and we'll get back to some of your questions momentarily. But before we do, is Ken Weaver back there? I can't see him. Ken Weaver?
I'm right here, Brother Murphy.
By popular demand, I need an update on the Vanderbilt Georgia Tech scores. Sir.
All right, let's check it out here. Whoo, it is a nail biter. 7:45 left to go in the third quarter. It is the Commodores up by 1, 14-13 over the Hornets.
There you go.
And looks like Vandy's got the ball 3rd and 8. Right there at, that's the Yellow Jackets,
They're
right?
no Hornets.
They're kind of like Hornets.
They kind of like sand gnats.
Wimpy hornets.
I mean, they'll sting you like a hornet.
More like a sand gnat, I think.
A sand gnat?
Oh, yeah. No, they're no young. They don't swarm like you. I mean, well, although there was some swarming during the Georgia game.
A little bit.
Yeah.
The Georgia Tech yellow hornets.
It's got the ruddy hornets. All right, well, good. Well, we'll keep you updated on that game. For those of you who are interested, we're also keeping up with Jay St. Clair. Jay, a couple of comments on the H-1B. I mean, obviously, there are some that are very frustrated, and they are suggesting that Elon himself has been exposed as to one of the individuals, as we discussed, that is abusing the system, saying that he's using this to fill out his ranks at the X corporation without regard for the demand that he tries to get Americans first. I imagine that he would take exception with that, but the bottom line is if he's being accused of abusing the system, I would expect that some people could. I mean, what would be the process there to file a lawsuit against him?
I'm sorry, Matt. Sim cut out.
No, it's all good. So there are some that are listening to us have this discussion that are very angry at Elon. And they're angry at Elon because they say that he himself is one of the violators of the H-1B system, that he is using that system to hire people from foreign countries to work at the X corporation without regard for looking for American workers. So my question is, I mean, I don't know how much truth there is. We would have to do some research on it. But for those people that are very angry and frustrated, what would you do? Would you who would file suit? I mean, how would one, if it's Elon or anyone else that's accused of abuse of the system, who would go after them? What entity?
Well, it would be the Department of Labor, and I would say this about that. Of course, I don't know. I don't have any personal knowledge about that at all, man. Mm-hmm. But on the current administration, the Biden administration has about...
Uh-oh. Oh, we thought the Zoom was so good until it's not. Then we lost it. I think we lost Jay there.
Agencies of the Department of Labor. And I would be shocked if there was widespread abuse of visa systems in any of his companies and the Biden administration had not gone after him for that. I don't have any personal knowledge about his compliance with the law or not, but I understand how politics works.
No, this is a great point that you just made. So for those that are suggesting that Elon has taken the position that he's taken because he's abusing the system, then look, it's a great point. Why in the world, as much as the Biden administration clearly hates Elon Musk, he put all of his eggs in the Trump basket. He went there. He bought X. They wanted, I mean, all of these things that he did. Why wouldn't the Biden administration, through the Department of Labor, go after him for violating the proper practices of the H-1B program?
Well, trust me, they haven't held back the Security and Exchange Commission has been all over him. The Department of Labor has been all over him. The space people have been all. Did you hear him tell the story, Matt, about how they had to satisfy the feds that when his rockets landed, they would not kill a whale or a shark?
What? I haven't heard this story. That? I haven't heard this story. Uh-oh. What?
It is the most incredible story. Before they...
Well, for those who can't hear this story, this is the most fascinating. Jay, are you there? Mm-mm. Well, I mean, we're
it's cutting in now.
Yeah, well, it's our first experience with Zoom. We got to break a few eggs before we make that omelet. But you're back. You're back in. So no, tell me the story. So he had to prove that he wasn't going to kill a whale. What?
No, this is you got to find this to play because it's hilarious. But yeah, they first said to him, well, before you can do this, you got to prove to us that you're not going to kill a whale. And he said, well, okay, give me the whale data. I don't know how many. I don't know where the whales are, how many there are. Give me the data. And they said, well, we can't do that because we don't trust the people that have it. And so he had to go around and around on all this, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Perfect.
Okay. And so they got the data and they did all that. And then he showed him. He says, we think the whales are pretty safe. And so then they said, okay, well, what about the sharks? Is there a chance that one of your rockets is going to land on a shark? And he said, well, it's a big ocean. you got to hear him tell the story. He said, it's a big ocean, and there's, it could land anywhere. But I just got to be honest with you, Mr. Fed. If one of our rockets hits a shark and kills him, well, it was his day.
Mm-hmm.
That was meant to be.
I think I've. I was going to say, I think I've got it. I think I've got it. We'll play it for them in just a minute. It's about 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
It's hilarious. Long. It is hilarious. Absolutely. And so you listen to that, Matt, and then you think to yourself, if there is widespread visa abuse in any of his companies, do you think the Biden administration would have turned their head, turned a blind eye to that? The answer is a resounding no.
Well, I mean, and 5718, who's all over this story and very, very angry at Elon Musk, saying that Elon Musk has been exposed, is completely full of bleep, couldn't fill any of these jobs at X with Americans, utter nonsense that they're bringing these people in for cheap labor. But every labor position that you posted is $145,000 plus, Mr. Caller, Mr. Texter. So I don't. That doesn't seem like cheap labor to me, but the texter is saying that $145,000 in San Francisco is not a livable wage. So, I mean, look, if you believe that Elon Musk is our biggest problem in America, I would suggest to you that we are sunk as a nation. I mean, honestly, I don't know what else to tell you. If you think this is the biggest issue, then I don't know what to say to you. All right, go ahead.
I would just say this again, Matt, that if he is cheating on visas, I have no personal knowledge about it at all, but I know this. If there was widespread cheating in any of his companies about visas, he would be in jail right now. They hate him. But he's probably what pushed Trump across the finish line.
No, I don't have any question about that.
He would be in jail right now.
Unrelated to the subject of the H-1B visas, let's get you a couple of questions. For Jay, if my name is on my mom's checking account and someone sues her, for example, a car accident, and she's at fault, can they also sue me?
Well, Chris,
Yes.
He's asking, can somebody sue him? What does it take to file a lawsuit, Chris?
Something like $5 and a ham sandwich or something like that. I don't know.
$400 and a crayon, and that's going to be the name of our podcast.
Yeah, Jay and I are going to start a podcast, and we're going to call it $400 and a crayon.
$400 and a crayon.
Yeah, nice.
So you're really not asking me whether they can sue you. The answer is yeah, they can sue you. You're asking, do they have any claim against you? Now, the only quote claim they have against you is they could try to get the money in the bank account where you're jointly owned, right? And then you could say, well, you're only entitled half of it. It depends on whether if it's joint ownership or right of survivorship, or if you've got it set up separately. But they couldn't they cannot sue you for everything you got. The only thing they could try to get to is that bank account.
David is next up with a thought on immigration law. David, you're on with Jay St. Clair. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I enjoy the show, and Jay, I enjoy hearing you occasionally. My question is the H-1B, I believe they call it. How can we, more or less, how is it more specifically written, and how can we enforce such a broad gray area? That's what it sounded like to me. And I'll just hang up and look your response.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Great question, David. And actually, Trump has already come up with an idea. He did this during his last administration, man. They had a technical problem with the person who didn't have the authority to do it. But I think he'll reinstitute this because right now, these 65,000 visas, they're really kind of doled out randomly for different industries, different states. So they're not necessarily trying to get the best and the brightest people to fill those limited jobs. And so here's the idea, and I think it's brilliant. they're going to hand them out based on the salary being offered for each person. So, the people who are being offered a job for $200,000, they come to the front of the line. That's brilliant because that's not a fake job, and they're not being paid below market rate. And it creates an incentive for companies that truly need foreign nationals to fill jobs that they can't get in the U.S. to pay a really good wage. So, Frank, I just think that idea is brilliant. Let the marketplace deal with it. Governments are terrible at writing regulations, but just let the marketplaces deal with it. We're going to say, hey, the people who are willing to pay the most to fill these jobs are the ones that are going to get the jobs filled.
Well,
that cuts out the cheat. That cuts out the cheating.
Right. And I would agree with that. And if there are repairs that need to be made in the system, I would agree completely. Let's see some of those repairs made. But I don't think that was what Elon Musk was arguing, that we need to keep some form of the system. I don't think he was arguing, and I'm not here to speak for him or defend him, but I don't think he was arguing that there aren't abuses, and maybe he's guilty of some of those abuses. But if we need to shore up the system to make sure that it is doing what it was designed to do, and their protections are doing what they're designed to do, then I don't have any problem with that.
And I'm sure he doesn't either, man. Look, I mean, here's the deal. Well, let's just put it down there where the goats get to it. The federal government is good, really only good at two things. Two things, Chris, is the only thing they're really good at. Taking your money and killing people.
That's right.
That's the only two things they really do well. They don't really do anything else very well. And so I'm sure that this visa thing is being run about like the Department of Motor Vehicles or the post office.
Just as long as you don't talk bad about the Metro Nashville Police Department today, Jay. I won't put up with that.
I wouldn't throw you under that bus.
Ask Jay if a lawyer owes me money and he's not refunded my attorney payment, what I can do to get my money back. He owes me $2,700. I need some help, says 4176.
First thing to do is call the state bar. Absolutely call the state bar. That's exactly what they're there for. Or I'm assuming you're in Tennessee. Call the Tennessee State Bar. Tell them what you're calling about. They will put you in touch with the right people. And I bet they get that problem fixed. That's what they're there for. That's one of the many reasons they're there. Call the Tennessee State Bar. You can find them on their website, and I bet you they'll fix your problem.
Final question for Jay. Hello, Matt. Question for Jay. My son is a photographer and a videographer, and a lot of my neighbors would like for him to go to their house and make a video of their possessions and put it on a disc or whatever you do for them to save, and he is afraid. What if they get robbed? Would they come after him so he doesn't want anything to do with it? Is his fear legitimate, or is there some sort of paperwork he could fill out to protect himself? So
I'm not really understanding what the fear is there. That's a very common thing to do. Everybody's kind of advised to do that on their own. I never really thought about having a professional come in and do it. I can't imagine why he would have any liability. So I don't see the basis for that fear. The only thing I can think of maybe is that somebody says, well, you didn't take a picture of my aunt's brooch. You were negligent in what you took pictures of. That's such a long shot. I wouldn't worry about it. But yeah, he could draft up a simple little release. I don't know if he's going to charge for this or not, or even if he is, he could draft up a simple little release. And if you're really interested in that, find me on the internet. I can't hide. I'm right there. It's Jay St. Clair. I'm more of a sinner than a saint, but it's St. Clair, ST period. And I'd be happy to draft something up for you.
Jay, always a pleasure. I'm going to love these afternoons together on these Fridays. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Hey, congratulations on getting the evening slot, man. I'm so happy for you. You know I love you, brother.
You look great on the TV, Jay. There's Jay St. Clair, our man, our legal correspondent. My best friend is 53 after the hour on Super Talk.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
President-elect Trump asking the U.S. Supreme Court to pause the law banning TikTok. We'll tell you about it at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much for all of your communication via the phone lines and the super text line. As a matter of fact, I just got one in from 5668. Says, I think I know why Ken moved with you. Well, no, Ken moved before me. Ken was here with the three amigos. But I think I know why Ken moved. He's trying to get out of that rush hour traffic on I-24 in the evening.
It ain't working. I'm going back to the mornings.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that to us. It's Ken Weaver. It is Chris Webber. It's Matt Murphy. We got 2 more hours to go, and we'll call it a weekend on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Your calls on the H-1B. Look, I'm not against your frustration, but you fix the system. I don't think you scrap the system. I think there is some necessity to the system. Do you agree or not? Everything should be in America's interest first. We'll talk about it next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Tracking the potential for severe weather tomorrow. Tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. President-elect Trump asking for a pause to the law that could ban TikTok in the U.S. if the Chinese company that owns it doesn't sell to an American company. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
In a friend of the court brief, the president-elect urges the justices to delay the TikTok sale deadline and give him time to, quote, pursue a negotiated resolution that would save the popular app while also addressing national security concerns. Trump's nominee to be Solicitor General, who submitted the filing, says Trump alone possesses the consummate deal-making expertise, the electoral mandate, and the political will to negotiate a resolution to save the platform.
Now, the deadline for that Chinese company to sell is January 19th. Tennessee can resume lethal injection executions. They were paused 2 years ago after Governor Lee ordered a third-party review after it was determined the state might have used expired, compromised, or untested chemicals on at least 2 death row inmates. Today, the State Department of Corrections announced the review is over, and from now on, they're going to use just 1 chemical, pentobarbital, instead of 3 that were used in the past. And the man accused of setting a woman on fire on a subway train in New York City facing first-degree murder charges. Brian Clark says he was indicted today, but authorities have not been able to identify the victim, who was believed to be homeless.
Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez says they're using advanced fingerprinting and DNA techniques to try to identify the woman who was burned to death inside of a subway train.
We know that there's a family just because someone appears to have been living in the situation of homelessness does not mean that there's not going to be family devastated.
His office announced an indictment against Sebastian Zepeda, accused of setting her on fire. He is due in court January 7th.
Money news, credit card debt expected to hit a new record this month. Reports say 36% of Americans went into debt this season, leaning on credit cards to purchase gifts. Credit card balances were already 8% higher than a year ago, and 28% of credit card users had not paid off the gifts they bought last year. And mortgage rates ticking higher heading into the new year. The average 30-year fixed mortgage now up to 6.85%, meaning monthly payments could be a couple of $100 more than they were under September's rates. Remember this from 1985?
Now, Sports Center with Greg Gumbel and George Grant.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ESPN Sports Center. As you saw there,
1985. Well, one of those gentlemen, Greg Gumbel, has passed away today. That's at the age of 78. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right. Looks like TDOT says we're still working that accident 65 southbound at near Bethel Road in White House. Looks like they're making repairs from that wreck there earlier today. Then we had a new crash pop up here in Madison. This is Tennessee 45, just east of Gallatin Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Halfway home. Oh, pardon me, big voice guy. Halfway home on this Friday edition of the Matt Murphy Show. I got a little ahead of myself. It's 5:06. Good afternoon. Matt, Chris, Ken, and you, thank you for being a part of the gang. We appreciate you so much. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to participate in the proceedings. Primarily discussing this mild controversy between Elon Musk and his statement about H-1B visas versus some of the more hardliners regarding, I don't suppose it's regarding illegal immigration at this point. I suppose it's regarding abuse of the legal immigration system. That's what we're really talking about. 615-737-9986. During our Friday segment, if you missed it, we'll have it up and running a little bit later on all of the social media platforms and whatnot. You can find us, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and rewatch the show or re-listen to the the show, and we appreciate you doing that. So Jay mentioned Elon Musk and the overregulation and the impact that overregulation has on American business, and an example of that. Jay also brings up there's a suggestion being made, and I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe it's true, and maybe it needs to be investigated. If there is abuse of the H-1B system, then obviously that abuse needs to be found out and that abuse needs to be stopped. If we need to correct the H-1B system, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I think the consequences of that might be significant. We need to make sure that we can fill some of these high-tech jobs, and if we cannot fill these high-tech jobs, ask ourselves why. Our educational system is not providing the opportunity for many of these youngsters to get to a college where they can learn some of these technical careers. And oh, by the way, I don't disagree with Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek had another thing to say about this issue with regard in agreeing with Elon that we need the H-1B system for the upper tier engineers, the upper tier skilled labor set that you cannot find in the United States. Now, there are many of you, well, I won't say many, some of you, a few of you online that are suggesting, and you're bringing some receipts that Elon's hiring through the H-1B visa. He's hiring foreign labor above American labor, that he's doing that on purpose. And if that is the case, then I certainly want to know it. Now, 5718 said that he himself is abusing the H-1B program. He's also removing check marks and, in some cases, subscribers from X accounts who call him out on H-1B. In other words, free speech is free only so long as you agree with him. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I've seen plenty. By the way, X does not equal free speech, except that Elon has said that it will. But no social media platform owned by a company or shareholders or a group of people or an individual is beholden to the First Amendment. They're just not. The First Amendment is about government. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's about government interfering with your ability to speak. You don't have the right to walk into a Walmart. If you're an employee of Walmart, you don't have the right to wear a shirt that says F Walmart while you're working there. Well, it's my freedom of speech. Your freedom of speech does not extend to Walmart, nor does it extend to the X machine. Now, you can begrudge Elon Musk if he's doing that on the basis that he promised not to. Elon Musk is not perfect. But I think Elon Musk is necessary in order to advance an agenda that's going to get us back to the country that we believe in, to make America great again. And if you've decided that Elon is the enemy, he's the first one we're going after, honestly? Does any of that mean that we should not look into the H-1B? Of course we should. We should make sure that there is no abuse of the system. And let's go after him for that abuse if it is discovered that he's abusing the system or anyone else that's doing so. Some of the receipts that I've received from a few of you indicate that Elon Musk has hired through through X. There are 22 records found where the X Corporation utilized the H-1B system to hire individuals. 22 records. I have no idea how many people X employs, but I feel like it would be way, way, way in excess of 22. And these salaries range from $145,000 a year for an accounting manager to as much as, pardon me, very small print, $320,000, something along those lines. So if that's the big fish that we need to fry moving into 2025, I mean, I'm here for it, I suppose. But as I said at the beginning of the show, what Elon said, I believe, is functionally true, that there are positions that need to be filled in technical sectors in the United States of America that perhaps cannot be filled by American workers. And if I'm wrong, then so be it. And I'll stand corrected. I just don't know that this is necessarily the first hill that we want to die on. And you're handing a gift to liberal Democrats. We ought to be talking about shutting down the southern border. We ought to be talking about recouping some of that physical material so as to build a southern border wall. We ought to be talking about stopping the scourge of illegal immigration. We ought to be talking about a moratorium on all forms of immigration for at least 12 months, as I have suggested. And maybe we are. And maybe I am micro-broadcasting when I talk about H-1Bs. But I do not. For those of you that want to scrap the entirety of the system, I don't know that we have the high-tech and engineering expertise to fill those jobs that we want to bring back to the United States of America. And we need to fill more and more jobs, and we need to correct our educational system in order to do so. I'm an America First kind of guy. But that does not mean that I don't want to bring in the best and the brightest from around the globe to augment American excellence. And you do so by making sure that you vet these individuals and make sure that they understand that they're becoming a part of America. And they can bring their cultural past with them. Obviously, that's a part of what makes America great. But my plan is all about a melting pot, not chunky stew, when it comes to immigration practices. Anthony's in Nashville with a thought on all of this. Thank you for calling, Anthony. How are you?
Well, how about you?
Doing well.
Just a few things. I think what the issue became for some people with Vivek and Elon about the H-1B visas is that I have no issue with what Elon said, or I have a little issue with it because I think I mentioned it on there, but the issue that everyone else was getting all up in arms about and freaking out about and hating him was that he called the Americans stupid, and Vivek pretty much said the same thing. And while a negative truth to that is true, because again we've been inundated with DEI and affirmative action for all these years, that we do not have the best cream of the crop, even of our own kind, in America. So it makes sense to keep the H-1 visas for overseas foreigners to bring them into America and use their talents if they have it. Because I can for sure tell you, Americans know for a fact that we are lacking because of this administration, or the whole thing with affirmative action, DEI. We're severely lacking, but we're not completely stupid. That's far from the fact.
No, I don't think we're stupid. I think we're largely undereducated, particularly in the public sector.
Yes. And I think that's just the main thing that was the issue with Elon. And people were trying to make it out to be a bigger thing than it needed to be. And I'm like, this is retarded, because he's correct. While he may have come about it kind of crass-like, but he's still correct. But then again, this is another.
I may have missed it. I missed where Elon called Americans stupid. What are you referencing?
That may not be the right word. He may have said something subpar or something like that. In a way of pretty much insulting people's intelligence. In a way, I don't think he called anyone stupid, but I think it may have just been pointing at their intelligence or their lack thereof, and their work ethic or whatever, things like that. So,
well, and some are taking exception to what Vivek said, and thank you, Anthony, for the call. And I don't know that what Vivek said was necessarily wrong either. Now, Ramaswamy is a first-generation United States citizen. His parents immigrated from India, so obviously he has some different perspective on all of this. Elon Musk obviously became a United States citizen after immigrating from South Africa. He's African-American now, is Elon Musk. Musk said, I'm referring to bringing in via legal immigration the top 0.1% of engineering talent as being essential for America to keep winning. Thinking of America as a pro sports team that's been winning for a long time and wants to keep winning is the right mental construct. Ramaswamy said this: our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 1990s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college. It starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Is that wrong? I don't think that's wrong. And it is a reality that is what we do amongst, I mean, I won't speak for the younger generation today. I don't have any children. If you do and you can speak to it, 615-737-9986, would love to hear that thought process. But I know when I was in school, and it has been my experience that everybody looks up to the starting quarterback. Everybody looks up to the prom queen or the cheerleaders or the beautiful people, and the nerds are picked on. I don't think that's changed. And Vivek, reflecting on that, now, you know, we can make all the jokes we want about this is a guy who got one of those toilet swirlies when he was in school or whatever, and maybe so. You know, we joke all the time. Vanderbilt's playing the foosball right now. We joke all the time that Vandy might lose the foosball games, but they're going to employ the football players later on, many of them. No, if you reap what you sow in that regard, and if you show admiration for, I mean, I'm sorry, folks, there's a correlation between what happens in many of our inner cities on this. Because sadly, there are young people that grow up in American inner cities that learn to respect the authority of the drug dealer and disrespect the authority of the police officer. And then you wonder why so many of those kids grow up to want to be drug dealers rather than police officers. Well, why do you think that is? Do you think it's different necessarily in our school systems where we place on pedestals, and I'm not knocking the high school football quarterback or the high school head cheerleader. I'm not knocking that. But that doesn't make what Vivek said any less true. American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence, said Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, that's not all of America. It's not all of you. It's not me, obviously. But part of the major issue going on here is our public education system, which I've long questioned whether or not it has been a failure in American society, whether we have reached a point where there can be no salvation. Some of this involves GOP on GOP violence. Sadly, the Republican Party doesn't seem to be able to get along with one another long enough to tackle more of the big issues. We'll continue the conversation and further it with a thought on the Tennessee scholarship debate, which will be Republican on Republican violence here in the state of Tennessee. We'll do that next on Super Talk Plus. After the break, an update on Vanderbilt from Ken Weaver in News Closet B on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and The Matt Murphy Show.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
President-elect Trump files a request of the Supreme Court to pause the law banning TikTok. This story and more coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Don't go anywhere from that microphone because I need a big-time score update from you. Vanderbilt University, the Commodores, anchored down. They're taking on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and some of you are curious about what the score is. Ken Weaver's got it.
Right now, with 10:43 to go in the fourth quarter, the Vanderbilt Commodores are driving to try to add to their lead.
Yeah.
They're up 28-13 over the Georgia Tech Yellow Honeybees.
The couple of Bulldogs listening to this absolutely love watching the Honeybees take a beating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Diego Pavia. Woo, boy, he's having fun out there. 13 of 21 for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Does young Diego have more eligibility?
Yeah, I think they gave him another year, didn't they?
Yeah, they said that JUCO year didn't count.
So, yeah, he challenged the rule. Apparently, they originally said he was out of eligibility. So, is he coming back to Vandy?
I would assume. Otherwise, why would he have challenged? Right?
Well, to go somewhere else.
Well, that's possible.
I mean, that's always a possibility.
Yeah, but if he wants to be a doctor or a lawyer, he's going to have to stay at Vandy.
Well, that's true. Business owner.
By the way, they just scored. It is now 35-13.
There you go, Commodores. Way to go. I love watching Vandy whoop up on some competition. I mean, first Alabama, now, I mean, could it get any better than this? I mean,
For Vandy, it probably can't.
It's pretty good.
That's not that's a bad thing.
I mean, what was their record? 7-5.
They're 6-6.
They're 6-6, and they're about to be 7-6.
That'd be 7-6.
Good for them. I mean, when's the last time Vandy had a winning record?
It's been since the Franklin days.
I mean, I would think, yeah. I mean, someone on the Super Text line can alert us to this. When's the last time Vanderbilt had a winning record at the end of the season, which it looks like they're about to have? Sheila is next up in Lebanon talking about United States school systems and their failures and successes. Hello, Sheila. Glad you called.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to get my 2 cents word in. I've worked in the school system for over 30 years, and we are definitely dumbing our kids down. Parents are not clueless, but they're totally clueless on what's going on in some of our schools. And it's really sad to even see that, yeah, you're right, the valedictorians are not recognized, like, signing in with a football team for the next coming university football league or whatever sports. And it's really kind of sad, even with us giving our kids high school breakfast. We're talking about maybe a single Pop-Tart, and the juice is imported from Indonesia. And this is our high school kids' start of a day of food. It's really kind of sad on what we're doing to our school system.
Well, sadder still, Sheila, and maybe it's a different topic for another time, but sadder still that so many parents are relying on the school system to feed their children breakfast.
Well, that too, but you look at some of the stuff that's taught in our school. I mean, we're not teaching them how to do reading. We teach them how to, try to dissect, Beethoven or, some of Edgar Allan Poe's stuff. And we don't even, teach them common words, and they have no idea of how to read an analog clock at high school level, or even to give change back at high school level, or even knowing that North and South, is not just Carolina or Dakota. They put Korea, North and South Korea, on a state map. Are you kidding me? This is high school seniors?
I don't mean to laugh, but that's awful. North and South Korea.
I mean, this was a high school 12th grade class, right, at normal ed, and they don't even know how to fill in even a third of the United States map on where things are.
I want to, we need to do a segment, Sheila. You've inspired me. We need to do a segment where, and we should call it, and I've just thought of a volunteer. Thank you, Sheila. Weber on the Street.
Uh-oh.
Where Chris Weber goes out and interviews young people like on Broadway and asks them some general knowledge questions to see what kind of answers we get.
Young people on Broadway.
Yeah, that would be entertaining.
I mean, wouldn't that be good?
I was going to say they're all going to be just out of their
Every
minds.
single one of them would be going, Hawk Tua. And I mean, that's what we get.
Yeah.
that girl, although she's in legal trouble now, that girl becomes an internet sensation and earns a tremendous amount of money for making a crass joke about a sexual activity. Meantime, I mean, what are we teaching our kids in school? North Korea, South Korea. But, yeah, we should do that. In all seriousness, I know it is a complex system, and there are a lot of ways that we ought or need to see improvement. One of the things that I experienced that I think we did wrong in my day in high school, which is the late 80s and early 1990s. I graduated in 1991. Even then, it was not said to you, but it was presented to you as a failure if you were not going to college. And by college, I mean like a liberal arts college. And most of the classmates that I went to school with, they went to college because they thought it was expected of them. And many of them had zero clue as to what they were going to do with that college education. They made okay grades in high school, and they made okay grades in college. And they eventually became English majors, art history majors, world history. I mean, and I'm not knocking any of those. I'm not knocking any degree. I'm not knocking a college education. But I would suggest to you that the insinuation back when I was in school was that if you did not end up in college, that you had somehow failed in high school. And that is wrong. There are many valuable careers that need to be filled, and lucrative careers: plumbing, electrical, welding. My brother and I got together over the holidays, and we were talking about this, and my nephew, Alex, had for a while, he is now a senior in high school, and Alex, his freshman and sophomore year, would regularly state that it was his expectation that he was going to go through the ROTC program in Columbus, Georgia, and then he would eventually enter the Air Force. He would go into the Air Force. Joe Biden beat that out of him. The United States military beat that out of him. Sadly, I'm here to report to you. They beat that out of him. And he decided last year that he didn't want to go into the military anymore because he did not feel like the military was respected and felt like, if you don't think that 16 and 17-year-olds get it, he told his father, my brother, they're too woke, Dad. I don't want to go into that. I don't want to be involved in that. And that's sad. What he did decide to do, and he is planning on doing it, he is going to trade school to learn to be a welder. He wants to weld. And he's preparing for that. And my brother is applauding it and encouraging it. Because, A, he recognizes that Alex does not have the interest set, not the skill set, not the intelligence, the interest set to pursue a liberal arts degree at a college. Instead, go to a trade school and learn to weld, learn to do something with your hands. For some reason, we as a society decided that that was somehow beneath our young people. And I'm not saying it was everyone, and I'm not saying it was everywhere, and I'm not saying that it was even spoken. But it was unspoken when I was in school, that if you didn't apply for and get accepted to a college, a traditional, quote, liberal arts university, that you had somehow failed. And some of the more successful people that I've ever met in my life, some of them did not finish with a high school degree. And many of them don't have a college degree. And, I've met a lot of people serving coffee that have those English degrees, boy. A lot of them. It's 32 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We are tracking the potential for severe weather here in Middle Tennessee. Tell you about it during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. President-elect Trump is asking the Supreme Court to delay the congressionally imposed deadline for a sale of TikTok. Here's Stephen Portnoy with the latest.
2 weeks before the High Court hears oral argument over TikTok's future, the president-elect urges the justices to delay the January 19th deadline for a sale. His attorney says in the filing that Trump opposes a ban of the immensely popular app and hopes to work out a negotiated resolution that would save it. The Biden administration and key congressional leaders argue that while it's owned by a China-based company, TikTok poses a national security threat serving as a potential propaganda and surveillance tool for Beijing.
Tennessee can resume lethal injection executions. There hasn't been any since 2022 when Governor Lee ordered a pause and a third-party review after it was learned the state may have allowed expired, compromised, or untested chemicals in at least 2 executions. Well, today, the State Department of Correction announced it has completed its review of lethal injection protocol and will use a single drug, pentobarbital, moving forward rather than that 3-drug mix as used before. The Biden administration proposing new cybersecurity rules they say will limit impact of healthcare data leaks. U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor for Cybersecurity Ann Neuberger says the revisions add new requirements.
In the last 5 years, there's been an alarming growth, 1,002%. In the number of Americans affected by large breaches of healthcare information, over 167 million individuals in 2023 alone.
The proposals include encrypting data so it cannot be accessed even if leaked, and requiring compliance checks to ensure networks meet cybersecurity rules. Back here in Tennessee, a new law takes effect on January 1st that requires bartenders and some servers to complete additional training on how to recognize the signs of human trafficking and sexual assault and the role drugs and alcohol play in sexual assault. Bartenders will have to be recertified every 2 years. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Picking up a crash here in Hermitage, Central Pike at Old Hickory Boulevard. Then TDOT still reporting crews are trying to repair the road after an earlier accident. This is going to be slowing things down in Sumner County, 65 southbound, right there near Bethel Road in White House. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Men of Valor. You know, 90% of men who go into the prison system will get out of the prison system. It is a reality that sometimes we don't think about. What type of men do you want exiting the prison system? About 50%, sadly, of men who get out of the system return within 3 years, unless they are disciplined and discipled to and given hope for a better future. That's why Men of Valor exists, and it's why Men of Valor needs you. Men of Valor has a roughly, it's in the teens, I think 12% recidivism rate of their graduates returning to prison. Why? Why? How can they return 50 into the teens in terms of recidivism? It's because of the power of God and his people. It's because of volunteers like you. It's because they get into the system and they teach men that there is a better way to live their lives. On their campus for aftercare reentry, they're doing the same thing. They need you as job partners, Bible study teachers, mentors to disciple and work with men on a day-to-day basis. Is that you? Are you ready? Are you ready to be a part of Men of Valor? Join them in helping set these captives free and making the community a safer place to live by going to movministry.com. That's movministry.com, and tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Men of Valor.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
I think you're right. Weber. We need something there. Down at the bottom of the hour. Because the host doesn't know when the show's coming back. If the host doesn't know, then the audience got no shot at it. By the way, you're being reminded, 0706 says, hey, Chris, don't forget about the 3-minute timer on the football talk.
Football!
Hey,
well, we've already,
See,
we've messed
Vandy,
up.
but Vandy is...
Yeah, the Vandy stuff is exempt, right?
Is exempt, right.
Yeah.
We were allowed to exempt the Vandy stuff because it's a local story. Speaking of, they still leading there, Weaver?
A game is delayed.
What?
It's delayed, it's saying.
Stormy weather down there in the Ham.
Yeah, but they're leading 35-13.
Well, let's just call it.
Yeah, I mean, why are they not given the time?
Those dirt daubers want to go home anyway.
The dirt daubers.
That's my favorite yet.
Back to the little clay huts.
Back to the little clay huts with they got little dirt dauber abacuses in there, and they're doing math problems and being all nerdy. See, we're doing it too.
Yep.
We do it too.
See.
We're guilty, Vivek. I apologize. We're knocking on the nerds as well.
Yeah, it's just saying delayed. It's not giving how much time is left.
I don't know, Ken.
That's making me real angry.
Well, hold on. I'm looking at the Weather Authority here on my phone.
Yes, sir.
To see what's going on down there in the Ham, and I see why it's delayed. There's some red, some bright red moving through the Birmingham area.
Oh,
but
it's right over it.
yeah, it's that would make sense. All right, 40 after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Many of you want to weigh in on our school systems and what we are prioritizing in reflection of the comments made by Vivek Ramaswamy, which I don't disagree with. And maybe it's tough to hear, but we elevate these things. And I'm not against elevating certain elements of our society that we appreciate or look up to, but do we elevate the high school star quarterback in a way that diminishes or relegates the math whiz or the tech whiz? And is that causing a residual impact into our schooling and our ability to produce good engineers, good technical scientists and whatnot? Jim is in Murfreesboro with a thought on all of this. Hey, Jim.
Hey, how you doing? I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to have you, Jim. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, look here. I'm almost 60, and I've had a very, very poor education in school. You know what I'm saying? But it was a better education than most people get today. My friend summed it up in just a few words with success is the greatest revenge. You know what I mean? Do well, take care of your family and all that, right? I learned in school basic economics in grade school. You know, how to manage a checkbook, how to put stuff in the bank, what stuff costs at the time. You know what I mean? And they don't teach any of that in school. And, you know, when I got out of school, I knew how to pay my electric bill. I knew how to keep a house. I knew how to save money. And I had good skills from the trades. I did the auto shop, wood shop, metal shop. You know what I mean? I graduated high school with something that was marketable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gone. And I graduated a little bit before you did. I'd say you were the first generation that was absolutely kicked in backside by it, and I say I was the last.
Well, you know, I remember. I mean, do they teach general business in school anymore? I don't know.
I don't know.
I remember taking general business.
in school anymore?
General business was, you know, how to fill out a checkbook. You know,
yeah, we learned that in grade school.
You know, how to you know, learn basic life skills. You know, we learned about loans. I remember this. We learned about compound interest versus simple interest, and why, if you're taking out a loan for a car, how much it's going to cost you, and how much you're going to pay on that loan on the front end on the interest versus on the back end on the principal of the vehicle. I mean, just little things like that, teaching people, helping their common sense that God gave them understand how life goes and how they can get themselves in a lot of trouble when they're out in the real world. And I don't know if we're teaching that anymore or not.
We're not. I was listening to the television, and this lady was attacking the principal, don't get in credit cards, because she had no credit when she graduated from college. You know what I'm saying? And it was an ad on TV attacking the idea that you don't need to use credit cards to save your life. It was crazy on TV, and our kids see that. It's everywhere, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, I think we collectively as a society, Jim, and thank you so much for the telephone call and for the valuable info. I think as a society we can reflect on this and remind ourselves that we're missing some of the building blocks for our youngsters. And not everybody, not all families, and I certainly don't include so many of you that are raising youngsters. There are many, many, and let's not forget that there are so many good families and good parents that are filling in those voids that perhaps the public school can no longer fill. And by the way, schooling by itself, in and of itself, does not mark success or education. My grandfather was the smartest man I have ever met in my life, and he did not graduate the 8th grade. My grandfather left the 8th grade when he got into a fight on the school ground. Now, this is a great story. My grandfather got in a fight with another kid. The other kid was trying to bully him and had his arm in a chicken wing. You know, you're in an old chicken wing where you put your arm behind the back, and he was pulling it up, and the other kids were laughing at him. And they were building another segment of the school because the school was growing in this part of South Carolina. And he made my grandfather get on his knees. And Pa used to tell this story. He said, I got on my knees and I saw a little piece of brick. And so I picked up the piece of brick and I hit him in the head with it. And that ended the fight. And both of these kids are brought in. And my grandfather's father is brought into the school system. And he's told that my grandpa will have to be suspended for 5 days. And he said, his dad said, well, what's going to happen to the other kid? And they said, well, nothing. He didn't use an object to hit him. And my grandfather's dad said, to hell with that. And he left, and Pa never went back to school, ever. And he just went and worked on the farm. Said, that doesn't compute. But my grandfather's the smartest man I ever met. And he often said that they ought to call common sense uncommon sense because he doesn't see a lot of it walking around anymore. And I feel like we're losing some common sense in our society as well. In addition to some of the book learning that sadly our public education system doesn't seem to be keeping up with. Mike is next in Murfreesboro. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Matt. Good to talk to you again.
Yes, sir.
Listen, just about every first week of February, you have what's called National Signing Day, where these high school athletes go and they sign their name on a dotted line to play football or any sport at the college of their choosing, right?
Yep.
When is the last time you've seen a National Signing Day where these students, valedictorians and whatnot, sign to go to the college of their choice to get that education? You don't see that, do you?
Nope, you don't.
There you go. There's your problem. Thank you, sir. Hope you had a good Christmas.
I hope you did as well, Mike. Thanks for the call and thanks for the. I mean, you're not wrong. David is next. Also, you got a lot of Murfreesboro happening. Hey, Murfreesboro, what's going on, David?
Not much. How are you doing, Matt? I hope well.
I'm excellent. Thank you.
Good, sir. My take on this is I think actually what Vivek did is a red herring. It's just to kind of throw you off the ball with it. And I think it actually worked quite well. This is my take on it. Between the H-1 visas, they're bringing over all the foreigners to work, right? To make the company a little bit of money, because your number one cost in any corporation, any business, is personnel. Now, what's the one common thread that the tech industry has throughout the entire industry? You have to have a college education. Mostly, you got to have a master's degree. All right. Now, what the difference between the foreign workers and the U.S.
Wait, I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought, but do you? You have to have a master's degree to work in tech industry?
Most of them require masters.
All right.
It's and that's kind of a side note. That's why they don't hire from the University of Tennessee a lot. There's mostly these big name schools, and they have master's degrees. Now, the advantage that they have by bringing in the foreign aid workers or the foreign workers, they won't work for as much wages because they don't have to, because they're not carrying $300,000 and $400,000 of student debt. The worst thing this country ever did was guarantee student loans with the federal government. You can't default on the loan, and you have to pay it off. But if you look at the correlation between the two, the minute that happened, tuition went up and up and up and up. And most of these degrees out there, even in computer sciences, is not worth $400,000. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's racking up $400,000 worth of debt. I mean, I don't disagree with your premise, but $400,000 seems a little extreme. I mean, maybe it's some of the Ivy League schools, but
well, it's Caltech, Stanford.
I mean, maybe so. I mean, I won't quibble over the dollar figure, but your point and the principal point is correct that a lot of young people are racking up debt and they don't have any forethought as to what they are going to earn with the degree that they receive that could possibly pay that back.
Matt, you're absolutely right, but you see the other catch-22 of it is it's a requirement. A tech company will not look at you at all unless you have a minimum of a bachelor's and more than likely a master's degree. They don't care about world experience. They don't. And I mean, talking about the marketing jobs, sales jobs, all the nuts and bolts jobs. They won't even, the algorithms that they're using today will instantly cut you out unless you have a college degree.
So how are, David, just as we talk here, I'm just curious, how are the foreign individuals receiving these degrees without racking up the massive amount of debt that the Americans rack up?
Because school in India doesn't cost what it does here.
So it's somewhat of an institutional problem that we've created.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it was created with an alliance between the technocrats and the aristocrats from the educational department.
Wait, so do you believe, maybe I'm hearing you. You don't believe this is on purpose to bring in foreign labor?
Well, yes, because you can bring in foreign labor and you can cut your overall expenditure. You can cut your expenses.
Well, legally you can't. I understand that I understand they're invited, but I mean, and we went over this earlier, that legally under the H-1B system, you are not legally allowed to pay the foreign nationals less than the market rate for Americans.
But
if they violate it, then
Matt, who set the market rate?
Well, the market.
No, the company sets the market rate.
The market sets market rates. A company can underserve their employees or they can overpay their employees, but
exactly. And especially in the tech industry, it's a very incestuous industry. I don't know if you know that.
Do you believe American, and I've got to run, but do you believe American universities are pumping out the amount of technically skilled students that could fill all of these places?
Absolutely.
I just completely 100% disagree. That the statistics do not bear that out.
No, Matt, your statistics come from employment numbers. They're not taking the jobs because they simply cannot afford to take the low-paying jobs.
For 140, I mean, the lowest pay, I just looked at an Elon list where the 22 H-1Bs that he has for X, the lowest amount is $145,000 a year. They can't afford to take that job?
No, not okay. And where do they have to live?
San Francisco, sir. I can live. I'm just going to disagree with you on that.
No, Matt, not wah.
What? What? What?
You live on the peninsula.
What?
You live East Bay or live in the peninsula.
Sir, my brother lived in San Francisco. Sir, just wait a minute. My brother lived in San Francisco, earning $100,000 a year and raised 2 children for 4 years. Don't tell me it can't be. Don't tell me it can't be done. It was about 10 years ago.
Okay, 10 years ago. What's happened in 10 years? Big tech explosion.
Okay. So in 2014,
he got in when he could.
I mean, your argument is that $145,000 a year is not a livable wage in some parts of the United States of America. Okay. All right.
Yes, it isn't.
Okay. Thank you. 45 or 54, that is, after the hour. David, I appreciate your call. We just disagree on a couple of points, but I don't want to make a disagreement disagreeable and turn an enemy into you. I appreciate your call. It's 54 after the hour.
Populations of animals. I mean, think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey or what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years, I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
You're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And my first commission in 1972.
Okay. Yeah.
At that time, it was a little different. The whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, we got the first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. And I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to. If you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or sailing a pond or whatever you were doing. You had that tie on.
Oh wow!
Wow!
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. It was generally around April the 1st. You switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, "Come on, April 1st."
6 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now, President-elect Trump is asking for a pause to the law that could ban TikTok in the U.S. if the Chinese company that owns it doesn't sell to an American company. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
In a friend of the court brief, the president-elect urges the justices to delay the TikTok sale deadline and give him time to, quote, pursue a negotiated resolution that would save the popular app while also addressing national security concerns. Trump's nominee to be Solicitor General, who submitted the filing, says Trump alone possesses the consummate deal-making expertise, the electoral mandate, and the political will to negotiate a resolution to save the platform.
Right now in Kentucky, 2 men are dead after a landslide in southeastern Kentucky. Their families called the Clay County Sheriff's Office when they didn't come home. Crews found them hours later under debris where the side of a mountain had slid onto the road near an old coal mine where authorities say the 2 men were digging for coal to heat their home for the winter. At least one person dead after an explosion at a Tyson poultry plant in Camilla, Georgia early this morning. Radio calls recorded by Broadcastify.com revealed dispatchers sending first responders to the scene.
You can see fire over the back of the building. Appears to be the northeast corner of the building.
Union representing plant workers blaming the blast on a boiler explosion, saying several workers were severely burned. Here in Tennessee, it seems the state may be ready to resume lethal injection executions after a 2-year pause. Governor Lee in 2022 ordered a third-party review after it was learned the state wasn't following protocol and may have used expired, compromised, or untested chemicals on at least 2 death row inmates. Today, the State Department of Corrections announced the review is over, and it has decided to use a single drug moving forward, pentobarbital, instead of a 3-drug mix that was used before. And the Department of Health and Human Services proposing new cybersecurity rules to limit the impact of healthcare data leaks. U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor for Cybersecurity Ann Neuberger warns more than 100 million Americans were affected by breaches in 2023 alone.
We see hospitals forced to operate manually. We see Americans' sensitive healthcare data, sensitive mental health procedures, sensitive procedures being leaked on the dark web with the opportunity to blackmail individuals with that.
Now, the proposals include encrypting data so it can't be accessed, even if leaked, and requiring compliance checks to ensure networks meet cybersecurity rules. And back here in Tennessee, a new law takes effect January 1st, Wednesday, that requires bartenders and some servers to complete additional training on how to recognize the signs of human trafficking and sexual assault and the role that drugs and alcohol play in sexual assault. Bartenders will have to be recertified every 2 years. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, over here in Antioch, got a crash. The right shoulder block, 24 eastbound at Hickory Hollow Parkway. That's not the only problem on 24. We've got westbound, a crash blocking the left shoulder right there at Bell Road. Central Pike at Old Hickory Boulevard and Hermitage, a crash there. Crews still making repairs from an earlier wreck today. That's impacting 65 southbound near Bethel Road and White House. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, indeed. It's 6:06, almost 6:07. We're getting ready for the weekend. One more hour to go. Hope you're able to join us for every single moment of that. Thank you for being with us. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Conveniently, my name is Matt Murphy. This is 3 to 7 from here on out, let us hope, leading up until 2025 and well beyond. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for spending some time with us. We appreciate that. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. A lot of opinion on the issue of H-1Bs, and we got into the weeds as to, you know, what the requirements are, what is a good salary, what is not a good salary. I'm going to pull this back out to 50,000 feet and say this. I understand that the minor details matter. I understand that we need to prioritize American workers in the United States. And as we can, we need to demand of our companies through our dollars, demand that they do that. Whatever way we can do so, I am in favor of. I believe in an American first philosophy when it comes to workers. I also recognize that we have a gap in terms of the amount of individuals ready to go in certain fields in the United States of America versus the number of jobs that are currently being created in those fields. I think that's a fair assessment. Now, is that gap as wide as some might suggest? No, I don't think it is. But there is a gap there that needs to be corrected through our educational system. There are a lot of issues with our educational system. I don't disagree that there is a need for H-1B visas, and as a matter of fact, quite the contrary. I think I agree that there is a need, but I think that it must be structured in a way where the abuses stop. And if Elon and some of the others are engaging in said abuses, they need to be taken to task as well. I don't know why, if they were engaged in abuse, the Biden administration hasn't gone after them. They've certainly gone after them for everything else, as our friend Jay St. Clair pointed out last hour or 2 hours ago. So all of that to say, if you believe in the excellence of America, we are not going to take some of these roles that we have sadly abdicated to other nations around the globe back overnight. I think that we should prioritize illegal alien immigration into the United States of America first. We should remove the criminal aliens. I think there should be a 12-month, I know I'm repeating myself, a 12-month moratorium on all immigration practices in the United States, every single one of them. And the companies can go pound sand, and countries can go pound sand for that matter. That we should declare on January 20th a national state of emergency regarding the illegal immigration that is happening in our country right now. We should declare a state of emergency. And upon doing so, the President of the United States should declare a moratorium on all immigration coming into the United States. And of course, immediately, he will be challenged in court because there are some that want to continue this as it exists right now, which is obviously broken. I understand why some have disagreements on the process by which H-1Bs are validated. And I understand that these are issues that need to be addressed. But I don't think these are the big issues. These are not the top line issues. 57-18, we can disagree on. I mean, see, this is the problem, 57-18. And I love you and I appreciate you. But you say yes on moratorium, but it should be 3 years. 1 year will do nothing. What? I mean, maybe that's not the tone you're taking, but that's the way that I read it. Well, so you're dismissing the idea of doing 12 months? Because ultimately, I would suggest that a permanent moratorium on any and all immigration would be detrimental to the health and future of the United States of America. Because there are some that we want, right? I mean, would we not want the best and the brightest? And, you know, I used as an example Werner von Braun, who helped our rocket delivery systems to the point that we won the space race. And he was a Nazi. But we recognize the importance of incorporating those immigrants into the United States of America through a robust vetting process. All that to say, we're going to finish up the subject with Kelly. I appreciate her or his patience. I don't know if Kelly's male or female, but we appreciate your call. Hello, Kelly. Hello, Kelly. Kelly was holding for some time, and sadly, it looks like we have lost
No,
Kelly.
I'm here. I'm with you.
Hey,
I'm
Kelly,
with you.
I apologize for your
Hey.
wait.
That's okay. It was a long one. That's all right. Really quickly, I did have one point that I want to make, but first of all, I wanted to comment on the gentleman who called about the tech educations. I actually have a child who got a scholarship at a very impressive private university and left with that and is now on the West Coast earning in excess of $170,000 with a just bachelor's degree, BS degree, and not a master's, and never been mentioned. So you do not have to.
Yeah, a lot of people, and I can't catch it all, but a lot of people were commenting on that, and I don't know
it's
that
not
you.
necessary.
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody to be discouraged that might want to get a technical. And his is not only technical degree; it is a highly technical degree.
Mhm.
But very quickly, you had a teacher, a lady who called who was a teacher, and talking about how the basics weren't taught very well, foundation skills. That is true. I'm speaking with experience in Sumner County with grandchildren. They are not, and I have noticed, and this is something you might want to get your staff to take note of, the reading material, all of the language arts, all of it, is something called Wit and Wisdom, and it is a version, and I think they fought this also in Rutherford and Williamson. I'm pretty sure it's probably over most of the state, but definitely here, Wit and Wisdom. I think it's been here for like 2020 or before. And reading the material in first grade workbooks for where they would have a paragraph and then the analogy of the paragraph, subject matter and such. Very disturbing. A lot of stuff about, one was about a cat dying with first graders and saying, "Oh, my cat died." They go, "Oh, that's okay. She was sick and old." It's always an ideology. And then they stick to chapters over several week periods. And this same book had at least a chapter about wind, as if it were a religion, about the power of wind, the strength of wind, poetry about wind, as if we should be worshiping wind power or something of the effect of that. But all of our curriculum...
Was there a chapter on braking?
On braking... no. But I will say, there was a lot
Kelly,
about analyzing.
You deserve better than that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was a lot about analyzing feelings, and you think, okay, why are we not just learning to read? There's a whole lot of things about feelings, worksheets and such. So very quickly, have your staff. I hope they look into this. Wit and Wisdom. It is all the curricula is developed by a small think tank called Great Minds in D.C. They also do the math curricula here. I never knew if it's curriculum. So, but they do also the math curricula here. And it's also from that, like the Great Minds Institute or something of that, but it is called Great Minds, small think tank, D.C. And they are also doing that. And my husband and I had looked at a worksheet my fourth grade granddaughter brought home, and looking at it, and she had missed one or two, and I thought, well, this doesn't look that bad. What's going on here? So I read it, read the directions, didn't understand it. And my husband, who's an engineer, I said, do you understand these directions? And he said, no, I really can't tell what they're asking for. It is very confusing, hearing a lot of this from other grandparents and parents here in Sumner County. So just thought you might want to look into that, and parents also. Wit and Wisdom in the county schools, all from D.C. think tank, and it is a lot of people are not happy with it.
Do you have children in the system, or do you work in the system?
I have grandchildren.
Okay.
Grandchildren in the system. But I did pay attention the whole time and have worked.
Would you, if you had a child, a 4 or 5 year old child, would you allow your child to be in the public education system if you had the ability not to?
If I had the ability not to, and I've talked with my daughter about this because they were thinking of private schools in high school. And I said, actually, I would reverse that, and I think it would be more important to look into private education at the primary level.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Well, because they truly are trying to teach an ideology, and they are missing the basics. And in math also, it's just very confusing trying to teach theory of thought of math rather than here are your basic skills. Now, you compute the way that your mind likes to compute, and that's so.
Well, listen, I mean, and you're providing some tremendous background, and thank you, Kelly, for the call.
Okay, and very quickly, one other thing.
Yeah.
I do wish y'all would look into the Wit and Wisdom. And at one point, you used to have someone with our state legislature, and I guess he was chair of the education committee, and he had mentioned that we had enough of a excess budget that we do not have to accept federal funds, education funds, that we could be independent and autonomous as a state, because that's, I think, what fuels a lot of why we're getting it from a small handful of people out of the middle of D.C. deciding what our kids are learning. I thought he said that we were going to stop taking federal funds so that we could decide. Apparently, that never happened. I never heard anything else about it, and I don't remember the gentleman's name.
Well, I can fill in the gap. So it's Representative Scott Sapicki, who's regularly on my show, and he'll be on the afternoon show as well. And we also talked to Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton about it, and both agreed that they believed there was a possibility of declining Department of Education monies so as to give the state of Tennessee a better ability to educate our children.
To be independent.
To be independent.
Well,
so that might be a moot.
Ask him what
they hold on. Let me finish the sentence. They've not done that thus far, but it might be a moot point because Donald Trump says that very quickly upon taking over as president of the United States, he's going to eliminate the Department of Education, and then those monies that are currently going to the state will go as block grants without any strings attached.
Well, hopefully they will look directly into what curriculum is offered at this point and make a drastic change in that, because it is CRT. Maybe it's CRT light, not sure, but definitely shooting for an ideology without worrying too much about.
Well, Kelly, I've written it down: Wit and Wisdom.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to look into that.
And great minds is who creates it in Washington.
Very good.
Okay.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
thank you, and thank you for your patience. I wanted to give Kelly a little extended time because she waited for a good while to get on air with us. This week, the Department of Energy has finally confirmed, it's gone completely under the radar, sadly, has confirmed what yours truly believed since summer of 2020. The true origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. Sadly, those of us who were preaching that we did not believe the bat meat theory, that we did not believe that this was some sort of accidental transition from a creature to human beings through meat consumption, we were much maligned. We were told that we were ridiculous conspiracy theorists. As early as the summer of 2020, I was questioning the language being used by Anthony Fauci and others There are some that questioned it before me. There are many that have gotten on board since then. Most of America now recognizes that the accidental bat meat theory is a lot of hokum. It's ridiculous. And finally, officials within the Department of Energy and the Federal Bureau of Investigation are admitting as much. So that begs the question, when is Anthony Fauci going to get arrested for lying to the American people, knowingly lying to the American people and causing American death? I'll connect the dots momentarily. It's 20 minutes after the hour. This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Thank you much, Mr. Weaver. I would ask Ken about the updated Vandy score, but that game has been suspended for the time being. Who knows for how much longer? We've got about 35 more minutes, and we'll call it a weekend. Weber and myself and you, thank you for being out there. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, day 2 of our new time slot from 3 until 7. Chad Benson now resides noon to 3. Of course, Chris Hand 9 to noon. And just backing it all the way up, Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis and company from 5 until 9. That's your live and local lineup on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Energy Department has now told us what we have known for years. They joined the Federal Bureau of Investigation in saying that the virus likely spread, the COVID-19 virus that is, likely spread via a mishap at a Chinese laboratory. The updated document from the National Security Council states, quote, the Energy Department's conclusion is the result of new intelligence and is significant because the agency has considerable scientific expertise and oversees a network of U.S. national laboratories, some of which advanced biological research. Folks, I hesitate going over the entirety of the arc of history on this. But it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's right. 2015 or 2016. When Barack Obama signed a law ending gain-of-function research in the United States of America's laboratories. Now, you can debate whether or not that was a good idea or a bad idea. I would suggest it was a good idea. But sadly, what we then did immediately, the National Institutes of Health, under the tutelage of Anthony Fauci, and with the knowledge of members of the NIH and members of the CDC, they immediately hired it out. So gain-of-function research, some consider it necessary to protect us against the worst of the worst that might come to planet Earth in the form of viruses or things that would kill us. Sadly, unfortunately, it's all too dangerous to engage in this type of research, as COVID-19 is evidence of. So gain-of-function research is basically you take something that exists in critters like bats or other animals that could potentially harm us, and you try to make it jump to human beings for the purpose of figuring out how to stop it should it jump to human beings. So at its best, it is at least the function of the research, the heart's in the right place, that you're trying to do good for human beings. Sadly, what ultimately, unfortunately, can happen, happened, in my opinion. And that is if you get unscrupulous or unsafe practices involving laboratories like in Wuhan, where you have Chinese individuals that don't really care about their people and they're doing things that they ought not to be doing without fail-safe to prevent it from leaking, and you get a leak, intentional or unintentional. I'm coming to believe that the leak was perhaps intentional, but that's just me. But we now know that Anthony Fauci was lying. We now know that we've long known that Anthony Fauci was lying about the source of the problem. He knew that it was from the Wuhan lab. And we also know that Anthony Fauci was well aware that the United States of America was at least in part through intermediary scientific laboratories funding the research that was happening in Wuhan. We paid for the pandemic. You and me. When former CIA Director and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said early on that the virus was probably from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, there were many organizations, including Town Hall and others, that reported on it. Pompeo said in May of 2020, and I remember him saying this, there's enormous evidence that this is where all of this began. I can tell you there is significant evidence that this came from a laboratory in Wuhan. And that's when former director Robert Redfield said the same. He stood by that assertion, and obviously there were plenty of individuals on the side of Dr. Anthony Fauci that steadfastly refused to accept it or admit it. it's just important to signpost these types of things, especially considering that we just learned, and we just learned that there were certain elements of the American bureaucracy that kept some of this information away from President Joe Biden, the President of the United States, the absent resident-in-chief. More on that coming up in a moment as we continue on the Murphy Show. Plus, have you gotten your lottery ticket? Huh? It's up there, boy. You know, $2, $3, $4 million, that's not enough to bother with. But when we start talking about billions, that's something to look at. More on that in a second on Super Talk.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy, and the Matt Murphy Show. Mr. Weber behind the glass. Mr. Ken Weaver, probably grumpy on I-24 right about now, as he is done for the day and the week.
He's mumbling something about Sooners under his breath.
Oh, my goodness. I kind of felt bad for him.
Oh, wait, we can't do that. Never mind, we're out of time.
Oh, yeah. No more time, too. Yeah. I did. I will admit that I'm in this league where we do like 20. I mean, it's not like regular gambling like they do on whatever it is, the sports books or whatever. But I do this league at the beginning of the year where there's like 30 guys, and we all put in $60.
Okay.
And you pick 20 games a week, and then you select 3 of those games. This is against the spread, and then 3 of those games are your key picks. No, yeah, that's right. So you could get a total of 23 points per week. And then you just total it up every week, and then the top 3 pay out. And the top guy gets like $1,000 or something or another.
Not bad.
And I'm not going to win this year, but I continue to compete because I might not get in the top 3, but I want to beat you.
Yeah.
I'm just that competitive. And so this week it starts getting slim pickings because at first you got a lot of games, and you can pick any games you want. They list probably 60 games, NFL and college, and you can pick any you want. So everybody's picking different games. But now as the games get fewer and further between, you're basically picking the same game. So you kind of have to pick everything. And so I had to pick the Oklahoma Navy game. Don't tell Ken again, but I picked Navy. Plus 2.5. And, I guess
wise choice.
Well, I mean, I saw there's a lot of defections. Not Ken, you probably don't need this. You're on I-24 right now. We're going to stop talking about it, and but we will do this. I've got to get to the spy bosses. I tell you what, I'm going to do spy bosses first, and then I got the whale story from Elon that I promised I would play. Spy chiefs silenced, quote unquote, researchers in the Defense Department and the FBI who discovered evidence in 2020 that COVID-19 was leaked from a Chinese lab, according to the New York Post. As a result, their findings were kept out of a report that was delivered to President Joe Biden on the origins of the global pandemic. That report concluded that the virus behind COVID-19 was probably not genetically engineered. After the pandemic erupted in Wuhan, several scientists from the Defense Intelligence Agency began trying to figure out exactly where it came from, whether it jumped from bats to humans, as we were told by Fauci and others, or whether the virus was man-made and came from a lab and perhaps a lab accident. The zootonic origin theory was backed by powerful members of the health establishment, including Anthony Fauci. Zootonic meaning it jumped from bat meat to human beings. Questions about a possible lab leak were repeatedly dismissed as a conspiracy theory, but the researchers compiled analysis and had dozens of data points to favor the lab leak theory. The analysis was conducted by 3 scientists in the Defense Intelligence Agency's National Center for Medical Intelligence. So I just want to remind all of you, all the while these people were going on CNN and Fox News and every media network that would have them, and telling anyone that suggested that this came from a lab in China that you were ridiculous, you were conspiracy theorists, and that you do not follow the science. And these were liars from the pit of hell. And I believe that Anthony Fauci is personally responsible for the death of American people. Not only because he knowingly funded the research going on at the Wuhan lab without the fail-safes necessary to make sure that something like this wouldn't happen, but after it did happen, he wasn't completely honest with the American people. How differently would we have reacted had we been told immediately that this was a lab leak and this was bad and this was genetically engineered? Instead, they told the United States of America this was bat meat. Well, how did we react to that? Well, hell, I don't eat bat meat. But nobody that I know eats bat meat. I didn't take it very seriously. That's something from a foreign nation way far away from me. If I was told that this was a weaponized, genetically altered virus that American taxpayer money was funding the research of and that it was gain-of-function research, that sounds like Contagion. That sounds like a scary-ass movie. And I believe as a result, American people did not take the seriousness of the situation. They were not fully aware of it. And because of that, people died. rather than amplifying the findings of the copious amounts of research done by these members, they ignored the national director of or the director of national intelligence, Avril Haines, as she prepared her report on COVID origins, which Biden ordered in May of 2021. Those amplifications were ignored and left out of the report. In other words, the evidence that this was from a lab was kept from Joe Biden, the president of the United States of America. Somebody ought to go to jail, because Joe Biden then subsequently went on television and told us that anyone suggesting that this was from a lab was ridiculous. I've got the report right here. Now, Joe might not know his butt from a hole in the ground. He might not know that what he was saying was a lie. But Fauci did, and others did. Where is the justice? Where do we go to see America made whole as a result of the lies and the subterfuge that went on during that period of time? I'll continue to demand it, and sadly, many of those demands fall on deaf ears. Jay St. Clair mentioned this earlier today, and I promised that I would play it. It's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It is an example of over-regulation and how it impacted SpaceX. Here's Elon Musk.
We had to do this. SpaceX had to do the study to see if Starship would hit a shark. And I'm like, it's a big ocean, you know. There's a lot of sharks. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And said, well, you have to, you know, this is, I think, from National Marine Fisheries, one of the, NIMF, it's called.
By the way, I've not vetted this, so I assume that Elon's not going to cuss, but I'm just warning. I'll be right.
They were like, well, you have to do the study on whether you can hit a shark. We're like, what? And then we said, okay, fine, we'll do the analysis. And then, well, can you give us the shark data? They're like, no, we can't give you the shark data. Well, like, okay, well, then we're in a bit of a quandary. How do we solve this this shark probability issue? And they said, well, we could give it to our Western division, but we don't trust them. And I'm like, am I in a comedy sketch here? And then, like, they're worried about the shark density data, like the people who hunt sharks for shark fins somehow getting their hands on this the shark data, and so eventually I think we got the data and we could run the analysis to say, like, yeah, the sharks are going to be fine, but they wouldn't let us proceed with launch until we did this crazy shark data, and then we thought, okay, now we're done. And they said, but what about whales? I'm like, when you look at a picture of the Pacific, what percentage of the surface area of the Pacific do you see as whale? Because look at a picture, I don't see any. It's like, you can't. Where's a whale? And honestly, if the ship did hit a whale, it's like, honestly, that whale had it coming, because it's like the odds are so low. It's like Final Destination, the whale edition. It's like fate had it in for that whale, And so we had to do the whale analysis. And it's like, okay, yeah, the whales will be fine too, It goes on. And then there's like, well, what if the rocket goes underwater, then explodes, and then the whales have hearing damage? Like, this is real. This is actually, and we're like, look, if we could make a rocket go underwater and be a submarine, that would be like a feat of physics we could not accomplish, okay? This is not how it works. So, anyway, just one like crazy thing after another, where, so this is why I'm really feeling the pain of the overregulation.
So there's Elon Musk telling his whale story, where he had to get a report on an analysis on the probability of hitting sharks and whales from SpaceX. From space. Sounds reasonable. The probability of hitting a whale is probably less. Like, the probability of a SpaceX rocket hitting a whale is probably lower than the probability of hitting the lottery. Would you agree?
I'd say it's pretty close.
Maybe pretty close.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you, Mr. Weber, indulge in the lottery?
No. Not to say that I have never played, because I have, and there are times like now where I have purchased a ticket, but not very often.
So I have found that living in Alabama for the number of years that I did, where they have no lottery. Alabama's one of, it's Alabama, Nevada, oddly, because they don't want to take away from the real gambling that they do. I want to say, I think I'm right, Utah, Nevada, Alabama, and Hawaii. Fact check me on this, Weber, as I talk, because I think those are the four: Alabama, Utah, Hawaii, and Nevada.
And Alaska.
Okay. Well, there you go. Do not have the lottery. And the rest of the states do, and every other state is involved, along with Tennessee, in the Mega Millions lottery, which has now reached $1.2 billion. And when I lived in Alabama, it's interesting. It's all about what you don't have around you, because just about every time I went to Georgia to visit family or friends, every time I would come into Tennessee for vacation, anytime that I would go into a state like Florida, I would buy a lottery ticket because we don't have the lottery in Alabama.
Yeah. I remember being a kid before Georgia got a lottery, you would go to Florida and you would buy lottery tickets.
Yeah. Now that I live in Tennessee, I never buy lottery tickets.
Yeah, me either.
Until such time as the lottery gets to the point where it's $1 billion. And for whatever reason, I don't know why this is compelling. I mean, $100 million, that's nothing to.
That just won't do.
That won't, whatever. Not worth my time when I stop at the convenience store. But $1 billion, now that's nothing to sneeze at.
Might be able to hang out with Elon if I had $1 billion.
I actually had my, this was a sentence that, and I had to stop myself because I'm such a smart butt. My mother-in-law actually said, the Tennessee lottery, the Mega Millions lottery, it's up to like $1 billion. And she said, yeah, but how much are you going to have to pay in taxes?
She has a valid point. You will pay a lot in taxes.
I mean, I understand that, but you're still probably $600 million to the good, even after the taxes. I mean, I think you're still better off, and I did say that. I said, I think you're still better off winning the lottery than you would be if you didn't win the lottery. Anyway, the lottery is it's big time tonight, $1.2 billion, and a lot of people are playing. When we return, one final story. This is a feel-good story about a person found dead in an aircraft in the wheel well.
Ooh.
I might reconsider it and tell a different story. We'll find out together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. My friend J.K. Brister, Erica Brister, they control U.S. Pest, and since they've taken over, they've grown this company by leaps and bounds. How? Well, because they do what they promise they're going to do. They do what they say they're going to do. And what do? Well, the purpose of pest control is very simple. The very existence is found in the value of its role to prevent insect and rodent-borne diseases. As a secondary result, they prevent these creepy crawlies from taking advantage of your home and the things that are inside of your home, like the warmth and the food. Full-service pest control, termite protection, and crawl space service, all available. They will eliminate stink bugs, ladybugs, silverfish, roaches, and much, much more. Common Tennessee pests like termites and brown recluse spiders need to be eliminated. Just because it's the wintertime doesn't mean that you might not have a bug problem. Plus, let's talk about these rodents, folks, because they will take care of mice. They will take care of moles and voles and whatnot inside of your home. They will take care of all of the rodent-borne disease that comes with the rodents. Don't let them take advantage of your house. Get with U.S. Pest. They are the best. USPest.com. That's USPest.com. Or call today, 615-590-1260. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you, 590-1260. It's U.S. Pest. Was that me?
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what that was either. Hello, friends. Finishing up the week. Thank you for being a part of the show today and always. We'll get into a groove come the new year. We got a couple of shows before the new year, Monday and Tuesday from 3 until 7. Myself and Mr. Weber. You're here all next week, yeah?
I guess.
Well, I like that. I like that level of enthusiasm, my friend. We're going to do well together. Yep. Our week and our day and our year have gone better than a sad individual that I have the unfortunate duty to tell you about. This fascinates me. I'm a bit morbid. I would be very hesitant to allow anybody to see my YouTube algorithm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My YouTube algorithm includes a lot of, I use this as an example all the time, but it includes a lot of like the 5 most disturbing camping encounters, right? And it's like real people who are out, filming themselves and then they hear something and they open up their camera and there's some weirdo in the woods scaring the hell out of them. Or the 5 most disturbing internet memes or internet rabbit holes or whatever. So I admit that I have a bit of a morbid curiosity.
A little dark, huh?
Yeah, a little bit dark. A tragic discovery was made on a flight from Chicago to Maui on Christmas Eve. A spokesperson for United Airlines confirmed that upon arrival to the Kaulai, I'm certain that I'm mangling that, airport in Maui, a body was found in the wheel well of one of the main landing gears on the United aircraft. That's tough. So United Flight 202 departed O'Hare Airport at 9:30 in the morning, landed at the airport in Maui at 2:12 local time. Airline spokesperson said the wheel well. So what my morbid fascination is this. We've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
This never works.
No.
It does not turn out well. You cannot survive at 30,000 feet. The oxygen, even if you could survive the cold, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it is cold up there. But even if you can survive that, you don't have any oxygen to breathe. Do you think people think they can get in from the wheel well?
I obviously you do, because this was Chicago to Hawaii. This was a long flight.
It's a long
flight. So obviously they thought they could get into, some sort of pressurized situation, I would assume.
I would guess so. But if you're not
or just not smart enough to think it through.
If you're not in an action movie, if you're not Arnold Schwarzenegger and you're trying to get into the plane to kill the bad guys, then this is probably not a good idea for you. Let's end on a happier note, however. Country music singer and songwriter Keith Urban, our new neighbor, it's my understanding.
Yeah, I did not know this. I knew someone had purchased.
It is my understanding that Keith Urban was in the house, in the building, here at Super Talk 99.7 WTN and our collection of radio stations at Cumulus Nashville. Now, he's not here for us.
No.
He's here for the country guys. But apparently, where we broadcast, I call it the dead end of Music Row, Keith has purchased a studio facility right next door to us, and he's fixing it up.
Yeah, a lot of money being spent over there.
Well, good for him.
He's got it.
Well, yeah, let's spruce up the neighborhood.
There was one evening I left, I saw I think it was a Bentley parked right at the loading dock, and I thought, well, that's a nice car to be parked right here. And now it makes sense. That was Keith.
Well, maybe Keith is next door right now preparing for the big Jack Daniels New Year's Eve Live, Nashville's Big Bash. This is the official title of it. Let me start over.
Take a deep breath.
It's the Jack Daniels New Year's Eve Live, Nashville's Big Bash at Bicentennial Capitol Mall State Park. Whew. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is.
Featuring more than 40 back-to-back performances. And then the famed Red music note drop at midnight. So there was a time where they did this on Broadway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they realized they were probably losing out on a lot of Broadway money, not moving it somewhere else. But this is going to be on CBS. It's going to be a big deal.
This is a big deal.
That's pretty nice. The event will feature special musical performances by country stars Kane Brown, Jelly Roll. I don't get Jelly Roll.
Me either.
I feel like if Jelly Roll was just an average 30-year-old and he did the exact same music, nobody would know who he was. And maybe that's a part of it that I don't get. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not knocking on him. Luke Bryan, Eric Church, Luke Combs, Tyler Hubbard, Miranda Lambert, Post Malone, and a bunch of others will be at the Bicentennial. How much money would it cost you to go down there?
Lotto money.
I mean, it would cost me. I would have to pay you a lot of cash.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere near the place. But, for to each their own. Hope you enjoy the festivities with the rest of Nashville. We will enjoy the weekend. I hope you do as well. We'll be back bright and early Monday at 3 o'clock. Until then, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. For Chris Webber, for Ken Weaver, Matt Murphy, so long, everybody.